Welcome to Profiles in Eccentricity, a show about weirdos. With your hosts, John Fahey, Aaron Peter, and Matt Brousseau.
Hello, folks. Welcome to Profiles in Eccentricity. It's a show about weirdos. Doggone it. My name is John Boy. I'm your host, John Francis Fahey. Joining me, as ever, is the prettiest man under the sun, Aaron Joseph Pita.
Dude, that is me. So, you may have heard otherwise, but
I haven't.
it's fake news. To my right, your left is the 6-foot man eating pussy.
Oh, God.
Which interpretation?
And over here we got Pee-Pee Barfum.
Oh, Pee-Pee Barfum.
Yeah,
You're talking about handsome Matt Brousseau.
I am.
That's
Yeah,
what you're saying.
That's the 6-foot man eating pussy.
Yes.
Yes.
And
5'10"
how?
and a half.
Yes.
My guess.
Yeah, good enough. I'll take it.
Handsome Matt Brousseau, how are you?
I'm good.
You're here to bring us a profile?
I am. I noticed you guys didn't. You guys are wearing the same clothes you wore last week. It's really weird.
Yeah.
Change?
Yeah.
Well,
You
we're doing
fuck.
we're doing a little back-to-back because you're headed to Italy.
Yeah.
Italy.
Yeah. It's an extradition thing, but
That's cool.
Now, just to bring it into current events, you're going to a wedding in Italy, and for which the bachelor party you went to was in Asheville, North Carolina.
that's true, Aaron.
And Asheville, North Carolina, not having a good time right now.
No, I haven't seen any news about the strip club we went to.
Yeah.
Um,
And both of you asked
But-
about my Florida friends when the hurricane was incoming, and I really appreciate that.
Yes.
Thank you both.
Yes.
Hope everybody's doing
And
okay.
they are
They mean a
okay.
lot.
My friends,
Shout out to Asheville.
my friends from
I love Asheville.
my friends from Asheville were visiting here while it
crazy.
hit, which is fucking crazy.
Damn.
And it's really tough there right now. We're feeling for them,
Things are
and
not great.
yeah. Asheville is also a bustling little city.
What they say?
Asheville's a great. It's a great
not
city.
it's just so far from what you imagine a hurricane hitting.
Yeah, it's very inland, but it's a little
It's a
oasis.
lot, and like after
little-
landfall, you really imagine it dwindling.
Not there.
Not there. It
Well,
really.
climate change.
a lot of rain.
Yeah.
The rivers are already high, and then I think.
Yeah, and they had a lot of rain prior, so
Yeah.
the ground was saturated.
Yeah.
Which is the future, which is now.
Yes.
Folks, join us on the Patreon, of course. $5 a month, still, believe it or not. And we get extra episode per week. I didn't say that in the last episode, but yeah. Matt, you got a profile for us?
I sure do, boys.
Okay.
This is when I read this. I've read about this years and years ago.
Okay.
And then I remembered. I enjoyed it so much. What am I doing?
Yeah.
Come on, what the
What am I
fuck?
doing?
Those are good.
Why are you withholding it?
I like it when
Yeah.
those happen.
But I want to go back to, let's say, 1968. You're a young lad or lass, and maybe you have the television on, and your dad loves basketball, you know? And so he wants you to watch this basketball game, and it's a bunch of guys, and they bring the ball up the court, and they just keep trying to jam it into the middle of the court, right near the hoop. And everything is happening just in this one little space, and it's moving pretty slowly.
What the hell's going on?
Guys are running around. A lot of shots near the bat. They have to be near the basket, you know?
Man's walking on the moon.
And then, you know, maybe you're a young friend of yours, or maybe your dad switches the channel to another station, and here's this basketball being played. Guys are just running left and right, big hair, dunking the ball, taking the basketball with their hand and slamming it into the net with force.
Smooth, ebony skin.
Oh my God! And then, when that gets too much, all of a sudden these guys are shooting from all the way fucking 25 feet out.
What the hell?
Madness.
What the hell is going on here?
And also, they got cool uniforms, bright colors,
Yep.
weird ass logos, stupid names, and they got this ball, red, white, and blue, and it's spinning in the air. It's the most beautiful thing you've ever goddamn seen. Especially on old black and white television where you can't see shit.
Yeah, you flip back, there's a bunch of white guys fucking playing grab ass in
Yeah.
the key.
Yeah.
I think I know where you're going with this, and I like it.
Gentlemen, I want to tell you the story of the one of the few successful second leagues of American sports.
Here we go.
So we're going to be talking about the American Basketball Association.
ABA, baby.
ABA, baby. Oh, God damn.
The ABA started as just a way to be another sports league. Of course, the goal was always, how can we convince the NBA to take us in, because that's where the big money is. But they also did so many other things, like let players who never would have been let in the NBA showcase their talents. And they proved to be so good talent-wise that the NBA didn't have any choice.
Yeah.
And also...
He's so good they can't ignore you, Steve Martin.
That's kind of, what it ended up to.
Undeniable.
Yeah.
And
Dad.
the real story is
We're safe.
Didn't work.
is the players themselves, who they knew the situation they entered in, and they were all they more than any other league perhaps or moment in American sports, they realized that they were working together.
Yeah.
There was a camaraderie among these guys.
Amongst the ABA players.
Yeah,
You're going to get into some specific names, right?
of course, yes.
Okay, got
So my main source is Loose Balls by Terry Pluto.
it. Loose balls?
Yeah.
Because the shorts are so baggy.
Remember the ABA.com and Long Shots, Life and Times of the American Basketball Association. By 1966, the NBA only had 12 teams. They would only have 12 teams for, I think, another 4 or 5 years at least. Maybe even until the mid-late 70s. I forgot to look that up. But the idea for the American Basketball League was originally... or association was just the original plan was not even about basketball. It was to bring a pro football team to Anaheim in the American Football League.
Wait, hold on a second. The plan of the ABA
Yeah.
was to bring a football team?
So the ABA, so the guy who conceived, the main guy who conceived of the ABA,
His first gambit was football.
yes. Well, his original gambit in this situation was football. And this guy named Dennis Murphy. Murphy really just liked making sports leagues. He would later found the World Football League, the World Hockey Association, World Team Tennis, the 6'5" and Underworld Basketball League.
Hey, John.
One man said if they ever put a league on the moon, Dennis Murphy would probably start it.
Oh, Moonball.
Yeah. And so Murphy...
I think MTV did that with a rock and jock Moonball once.
It probably sounds like it.
I think
It sounds
Armstrong did it when he was putting around with fucking Buzz Aldrin.
No, they didn't. Armstrong did not golf.
First time.
Did
slam
Buzz?
dunk.
No, that was a different mission.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
Shit.
Yeah, that was 16. Wasn't 13.
Anyway, so the NFL and the AFL were two different football leagues, and Murphy wanted to put an AFL team in Anaheim because he said, hey, I'll join the professional leagues with a team, and you can't lose with a pro team. But right before he could do that, the AFL and NFL merged. The Los Angeles Rams football team wouldn't permit another team so close to them.
Uh-huh.
Now we have 14.
Tiny area. Now we have 4 teams in Los Angeles. So Murphy said, well, there's only one hockey league right now, and there's only one basketball league right now. But basketball is my favorite sport, so I'll make a basketball league.
Do it.
That was his logic. There had been an American Basketball League for one season in 1961, so Murphy called one of those guys who helped start that. That guy told Murphy to adopt the American Basketball League's three-point line, which was not in the NBA,
Okay.
and told him to call George Mikan.
That was the name I was going to bring up about big goof white guys who just hung out by the basket making layups.
George Mikan was the first ever Mr. Basketball. He was the biggest name in basketball. First giant talent in basketball. Super tall dude, maybe 6'11" or something. Wore glasses the entire time.
Nice.
Laker.
Yes.
Minneapolis Laker.
Yes. I believe the NBA instituted the 24-second shot clock because he could just hold the ball all day.
Oh.
Yes, I think that was him. Yeah, every other rule was Wilt Chamberlain.
Yeah. You can only have sex with 5 stewardesses, not all of them.
Yeah.
Come on, dude. You got fucking other guys on the team.
That's right.
The balls are all blue.
George Mikan put Murphy in touch with another guy who called Mikan earlier with the same idea and said, if you guys get a good proposal together, I'll pitch it. I'll be the guy in charge. Nothing rinky-dink, no bullshit. And there was either
No cap. I think he said no cap.
he said no cap. Now there was a third guy who had an idea called the Lively League, which was no players over 6'4". But Murphy said, "Fuck
which
that."
became the WNBA.
No, they're actually
Which is now cool.
the average WNBA player is probably averages over 6'4".
The Lively League.
WNBA over 6'4"?
There's a lot of tall ladies, maybe 6'4". There's a lot of tall ladies in that league.
Yeah. I'd be interested to know what the facts are.
the rating.
Oh my God, Heron wants a fucking gender test.
I think the rating.
No. I'm saying I'd be interested to know what the average height
The
is.
rating two-time MVP of the WNBA, I believe, is like 6'10".
Who the fuck's that?
I forget her name, but she's.
Well,
quite
I'll
good.
tell you what. It's not going to be her for long. It's going to be the fucking nude chick.
No, Caitlin Clark won't get that for a while. If she does,
She's fucking setting records, dude.
she's good.
And attendance records and viewership records, aside from assists, triple doubles, etc.
Okay,
Rookie of the year, unanimous, of course.
your white is showing. I'm kidding. She's quite good. She's a rookie of the year, or she will be.
I mean, she's no Cheryl Swoops yet.
Now, Murphy. So Murphy and the other guy, not the Lively League guy, started making some calls. The NBA had a thing where, in order to join the NBA, you had to put down $1.5 million, which is $14.5 million today. Not that big deal today, but back then, that's a fuck ton of money.
Of course.
And but Murphy and his guy, he said, well, if you want to join the ABA, $5,000 would do it.
Wow. That's great.
Yeah.
And Elise and a key.
Yeah. So on their first meeting with potential owners, some guys were showing up going, dude, I got 5 teams.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so one of the owners who actually had money.
I'll take $25,000, please.
Yeah.
Well, see, you just had to put $5,000 down. Now, one of the owners in this original meeting was like, there's too many guys doing this shit.
Yeah.
He said, all right here, we're going to put down everybody who's serious has put down a $50,000 performance bond. All of his money goes to create the league.
Okay.
And so immediately he clears out all of these guys, these rinky-dink guys who like...
I would imagine some criminal elements, right? Like,
Well, it's great they show in semi-pro that
the tropics.
that like some of them smoke and stuff. You know, like
They all smoke.
All of the NBA smokes fucking weed.
right.
Half of the NFL was smoking weed until 1990.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of
A lot of athletes you wouldn't think smoke.
athletes back then smoked cigarettes.
Right.
It was you got into the you got into
Namath
the...
was smoking on the sidelines.
Oh, and what
Yeah.
year are we talking here?
So now we're talking 67.
Okay.
Their doctors made them.
Yeah, it was good for him in the T zone.
It's toast.
So once they got rid of the crumb bums, they were like, now we got enough people. Let's have a press conference to announce the league. And they get Mike in to agree to be commissioner 10 minutes before the press conference starts.
Oh my God.
While is he still playing?
No. He's been retired. He's in insurance.
He was old as
He
fuck.
works in insurance now.
Man, that sucks so bad. You're a
But-
Hall of Fame player.
No, but he liked doing that. He didn't need the money. He just
Nerd.
like, yeah.
Huge
Look
nerd.
at the glasses.
Yeah.
He was a huge nerd.
So they got him 10 minutes before the press conference started to announce the league. He also insisted, Mikan did, that the basketball had to be red, white, and blue.
It's the American Basketball Association.
Well, because he said, exactly, that was one of the things. And the other thing he said was that when he was in the stands, high up in the stands, he found it hard to follow the ball.
Right.
And the ball, but you also have to remember,
he had glasses.
those arenas, all of the fans were smoking.
Right.
Those arenas were full of smoke. If you look at
Yeah.
old basketball
Yes.
pictures, there is a blue tint in old basketball
it's the
pictures.
smoke.
It's because of the cigarette smoke. in the air.
And the same thing for I heard a story just recently about that with old boxing footage.
Yep.
And anything indoors,
Yep.
and then also like movie theaters. Like
Yeah.
I remember somebody some story about somebody taking their grandpa to a movie for the first time in 50 years, and he was like, "Oh, I can see."
yeah, exactly. There's not a guy smoking.
Everybody was fucking ripping heaters.
It's not
indoors.
Cape Fear and a guy smoking a cigar in front of you.
Yeah, man, isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
Gosh.
It's a really,
Yeah.
really
And
weird
so
thing
you
to
got
think
the
about.
ball, and also it does. You can see the rotation of the ball. It's a much
That
more,
would be a big thing for the players. Most of the players at first hated it, but a lot of them started really taking to it. And also they said, when you shot the ball correctly, you could see that rotation.
Yeah.
And one of the guys had a move where he said, like, he would, when he had a one-on-one with another player, with an opposing player, he would spin the ball in his hand because everybody would just go, like, stare at it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
because it was captivating.
And
to
his
see
name
that.
was Harlem P. Globetrotter.
Yes.
A bunch of Globetrotters would play for the ABA.
And they also used a ball, multicolored ball.
Yes. At the press conference, they had an open bar and girls in hot pants. It cost them about $35,000, but Mikan at the forefront made the league a reality. He was a serious guy.
Lended credibility.
Yes, very much so.
Interesting.
One mistake the league made was that they never licensed the ball.
Oh, so
They-
fucking every
Yeah.
Tom Dixon Sporting Goods.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they did, like, kids loved the ball.
Yeah.
Kids loved the ball. They gave out so many toy ABA balls to kids because it's red, white, it's just colorful.
Simple.
They're still fun.
Yep.
They're available.
And the ball, like, let's not downplay the importance of the ball. Like, do you remember when the NBA tried to switch the ball, like in like the, let's say 2007, 2006 season, they switched it from a real leather, that orange leather ball, and they went to a synthetic leather ball with artificial seams.
Oh, okay.
And all the players, including like then MVP Steve Nash, was like, I'm getting blisters.
Yeah.
Like the ball doesn't move the same. It doesn't bounce the same off the parquet. It doesn't rotate. Like everything's you try to change the ball for some reason, and it and then they went back like mid-season back to like the original.
Yeah.
You at some point you can't do that anymore. These guys grew up
playing
with that ball.
Like every divot in the ball they know.
Yeah.
And then you change it for God knows why.
Yeah, they have a callus from the original ball, not the new one. But these are your original first year ABA teams, the guys who were able to make the payments. The Anaheim Amigos,
Nice.
the Dallas Chaparrals. The Chaparral was a roadrunner, and they got the name for the team because they met in the Chaparral room at the Dallas Sheraton Hotel.
Wow.
Someone was looking at a napkin and said,
How about that?
"That's a pretty cool name." The Houston Mavericks.
They were almost the Dallas Hyatts.
Yeah.
Houston Mavericks. Okay.
Houston Mavericks, the Indiana Pacers, the Denver Rockets, who are named after the owner's trucking company, the Rocket Trucking Company, the Kentucky Colonels, the Minnesota Muskies, New Orleans Buccaneers, New Jersey Americans, Oakland Oaks, and the Pittsburgh Pipers.
Huh.
Of the original 11, only the Kentucky Colonels and Indiana Pacers survived the entire ABA run without moving, changing their name, or folding.
Interesting.
The league meetings were eventful. The Kentucky Colonels always brought his owner always brought his dog with him. The dog was worth about $10,000. Most ABA players were worth about $8,000.
Oh my gosh.
They would put the dog in all of their
And that's where Air
publicity.
Bud came from.
Yes.
It was an award-winning dog. The owner married a dog competition judge, and they raised a bunch of dogs. They even named one of the dogs after their favorite player, Mo Leaks.
No way.
Yeah. And the meetings were eventful too. There was one in Anaheim there's one league meeting where Anaheim's owner Art Kim and Pittsburgh's owner Gabe Rubin got into an argument, yelled, and screamed at each other, said they would kill each other. Kim then said that he was a karate expert and he was going to break Rubin in half. And during the entire time, the dog is in the room, just watching this happen.
Wow.
He's the only one with any fucking balls.
Yeah.
Any scruples.
George Mikan walked over to the two of them and picked them both up, each with one hand,
Oh my God.
to separate them.
Wow.
Well, yeah, it sounds like one was a Korean, one was a Jewish guy, so they're probably fucking 5'4". Tell me I'm wrong.
It's crazy how you slip it in. So,
Dude, it's
Yes, it's
impressive,
really.
right?
I didn't even
No,
think. I didn't even.
no,
I
It's
wrote.
impressive.
I wrote this
And
paragraph.
for Kim
I
to
was-
say he was a karate expert is just downright racially wrong. He was probably Taekwondo. You know.
yeah.
Yeah.
That was good. That was good.
Well, at least we get that.
You leave me at one fucking angle, I'm getting in there.
I know. Yeah, you followed that trail of crumbs right there.
The president of the New Orleans Buccaneers, for a few months at least, was then known as Sean Downey Jr.
Sean Downey related to Morton?
He was Morton Downey Jr.
No way.
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
Morton Downey, the Big Mouth?
Yeah.
Was the owner of a team?
Well, he was the president. For about 6 months or so.
Yeah, I think I remember something about that. Yeah,
And I'm sure he noticed the race of those guys.
On his desk, he kept a flippable sign. Larry Brown and Doug Moe were two big names in the early years of the ABA. Larry Brown,
Like Larry Brown, the future commissioner?
basketball coach.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes.
Yeah.
Coach, not commissioner.
And they walk in. They hear that there's this team in New Orleans that they could, because Larry Brown was a guy who was deemed too small. He had played at North Carolina.
Too small.
For Dean Smith, for the legendary coach Dean Smith. He was deemed by the NBA, they didn't like small guards. Larry Brown was like 5'9". They said, no, we can't do small guards.
Dean Smith coached until like 10 years ago.
And Doug Moe had been banned from from professional basketball.
Why?
Something involving, I think it was a point shaving scandal. Whether it was actually proven or not, it didn't matter. The NBA said we don't want it.
Rest in peace, Pete Rose.
Yeah.
And so Doug Moe and Larry Brown were two guys. Larry Brown was coaching as an assistant for North Carolina, the college, and he was like, I kind of still want to see if I can play pro ball. Doug Moe was his best friend growing up in Brooklyn, and was a great basketball player. And they're like, fuck it, we don't need to go to a tryout. We're not going to get drafted because we're not in college. Yeah. So they just went to New Orleans and went to Sean Downey Jr.'s business, and they walked in and they looked at the desk, and one side there's a sign that said Sean Downey Jr., general manager of the Canteen Association of Louisiana, and they said, hey, we're here for the basketball team, and Sean Downey Jr. flipped the sign over. On the other side said, Sean Downey Jr., president New Orleans Buccaneers.
Wow.
And he gave them each a $12,000 check as a signing bonus, and they were so shocked they ran to the bank to cash the check to make sure it didn't bounce. And when it didn't bounce, they were like, holy shit, is this real?
Wow.
Put on our Converse and play.
Morton Downey Jr., he would be only be a part of the team for about a few months, but he had all of these golden tickets, and he would just walk around New Orleans and just hand them people. Everybody got a ticket that's a free game.
Wow.
We were just talking about a Willy Wonka like you're not last week.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, also a showman.
Another Barker.
Another showman, yeah.
Wow. Man, just what a gift that keeps on giving.
Yeah, the Barnum legacy goes deep, man.
I meant Morton.
Now, it's
your profile as well.
Doug Moe, along with Roger Brown and Connie Hawkins, had been banned by the NBA for various reasons. The Hawk, Connie Hawkins, was banned for, quote, associating with gamblers. That was never proven, but the NBA still said we don't want anything to do with him, and so no team could sign him. And this is one of America's greatest basketball players at that time, and he could not play at all. But the ABA said, fuck it. You're a good basketball player. We got to make some money. We got to have some good teams. Pat Boone, the music star, he was a part owner of the Oakland Oaks. At the press conference for his team, they had a 3-point contest with some of the players he had signed. Pat Boone won the contest.
Damn.
And he said, this is probably a bad sign.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
And he was a guy who played basketball, but he said his 3-point shot was it was a set shot. Feet, he wouldn't jump. He would just shoot with one hand.
That's tremendous tricep strength.
Yes. Yeah. Probably from all the performing.
Well, did he play guitar?
No, he was a musician. He was a singer, and
there is something about this though,
he probably played.
Where it is like an upstart thing where you're like, these guys shouldn't be fucking doing this, and like you're kind of like it makes you want to watch more in a way. Which
absolutely,
yeah, like there's a lot of great movies with this kind of
Bad News Bears,
The Replacements, Semi-Pro.
Yeah, it is like it's compelling.
Yeah,
but to see it, in real time, I'm sure was like, also like in sports, like there's kind of
it's a built-in underdog story.
Yeah,
with the whole league.
Yeah, but sports are mainly about like everything being the most elite machine, and the underdog thing has come out of it. Like it's like the thing. This is the thing Bill Maher was saying about the refrigerator.
Perry?
Yeah, and he was going like they're all refrigerators now. He's like it was notable at the time.
Yeah,
and then everybody
they're all refrigerators that won a 4.240.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So, but it's
incredible
like
athletes.
There's something about like.
Sure.
The people trying to do something where you're going like, oh man, like it's
Yeah.
there is compelling.
Yes.
Remember, Vince McMahon tried the XFL,
That's right.
and there a few players made the "He Hate Me."
Yeah,
Remember,
a few
maybe-
players. I think Kurt Warner might have been on the XFL for like a season.
Maybe because he was bagging groceries in
Yeah.
Canada before that, and then he won a fucking Super Bowl.
Yeah. But so before the owners have their draft for college players, they're just going around claiming, just going like, who can I sign? Who's a guy who's good, who I know is good, I can sign. And George Mikan, he wanted every team to sign a guy who was in the NBA,
That's who
was currently in the NBA,
Oh.
because he wanted them to then sue the league.
no publicity is bad publicity.
Well, because then they could challenge the NBA. The NBA had
A monopoly.
well, yeah, but they also had they had a no release clause. They had a perpetual ownership of players, and so there was no free agency. The players couldn't negotiate for contracts because they couldn't go to another team, and so everybody was stuck
Smart.
where they were.
Yes.
That's that smart insurance mind working.
Exactly.
But it's also, again, coming off Barham, it's like
It's a public-
controversy creates
Yes.
publicity.
Of course,
Yes,
of course.
and the public would be on the side of the players.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then this a similar thing happened with baseball around that time as well. Where,
Yes, they started having the union
Mhm.
started
Allowing
fighting
free
for
agency
yes.
and- yeah, very smart. These fucking guys, man.
So Oakland, the Oakland team, Rick Barry was playing for the Golden State Warriors, and his father-in-law was one of his closest friends and a coach. And they said, let's get his father-in-law to be a part of our organization, and then maybe we can get Rick. Because Rick was being vastly underpaid in the Golden State Warriors, even though he led the league in scoring.
Yeah, he had the very famous granny shot.
Yes, his
with-
foul shot.
Foul shot.
Yep.
He was shooting 99% from the foul line with the underhand shot.
Yeah,
Good God.
And his son would later go on to play in the dunk contest.
that's right.
What was his kid? What was it? Was he Rick? And he was.
Jeff, I don't know.
It was. He
There's
was a
another
Barry.
Another Barry.
Yeah, white guy.
So Rick Barry agreed to join Oakland, $75,000 for 3 years and 15% of the team. I think he was making like 12,000.
15% of the team is nice.
Well, it would have been.
If
Well,
they made any money.
We'll get to that. Yeah. Barry agreed, and then the NBA sued, and a judge ruled that Barry could only play if he sat out a year. So for 1 year, Rick Barry called the games on the radio and then played for the radio's basketball team.
The radio had a team.
Yeah, the radio. Well, because if Rick
Or were
Barry's
the radio
on it, yeah.
Flyers.
Hey, I think they actually might have been. And he said he played against some of the best high school faculties in the country.
Oh,
Wow.
dude.
Yeah.
When the judge says something like that, like, oh, the only way that you will allow you to play by law for this competing league is if you sit out a year. What's the rationale behind it?
Because then the Golden State Warriors do not own the rights to him as a player. Because he
And
didn't
if you're
play.
the judge,
because he
he
didn't-
like, you don't own those rights anyway.
Well, he could have, but he said, well, you didn't play for them for a year. Your contract is up,
Okay.
and they had a year, and you didn't play for them for a year, so your contract is now void.
That's like saying that women can't date another guy
Yeah.
after a year of fucking another.
Oh, yeah,
Like,
no.
it's such bullshit.
It's stupid. It's very stupid. But the NBA had this power,
Yeah.
especially being the only league.
yeah.
And so Oakland was the only team to sign a current NBA player that year, but they wouldn't be the last throughout it.
And that Rick being that player.
Yes, but that was a huge coup, especially getting Rick Barry, the leading scorer in the NBA, one of their best
Yes, completely.
Underhand shooter. That's not.
players, at the free throw line.
Yeah, if you did that
Yeah.
in the key, he'd get smacked.
Once the teams were set up and they were signing players, now there was time for them to do a draft. Part of the problem was that these guys were doing drafts all the time, and there was never any logic to it. They would just be like, "Hey, we're going to do a draft tomorrow," and they would do a draft.
The ABA would.
The ABA would, and whoever they drafted that day, they would argue about it for like a week, and maybe they would change it, and then they do another draft and redraft, and
Oh God.
Fantasy
and
basketball.
so it was all over the place. But Jimmy Walker was selected first by the Indiana Pacers. He decided to join the NBA. In fact, almost all of the players who were in college that they drafted decided to join the NBA. Dallas actually drafted the wrong person. because the guy who they sent to make their picks, he was given a list of players to consider, but he didn't realize it wasn't by talent, but alphabetical order.
Oh my God!
No.
So Dallas's first pick was Matt H.
Yeah.
Aitch.
Aaron Aronson,
Yeah.
the number 1 pick.
But that's
5'4".
that's the kind of organizations we're talking about here.
Yeah.
Not a lot.
Top of the list.
Yeah.
I did exactly what you told me to do.
Yeah. You didn't tell me it wasn't talent. I just thought it was a cool coincidence.
Also, he has a point because you should put
something.
give him the draft, give him the list in order.
Yeah. Or tell him it's in alphabetical order.
Don't print it in alphabetical order. Print
Also-
it by fucking list.
Also, it's a draft, not by alphabetical order.
Maybe it was a first draft list. You idiot.
Everybody's just drunk.
Yeah. Well, there's definitely
There's a lot of lead in the gasoline.
Yeah.
Asbestos.
Everybody's both an idiot and drunk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So after the draft and not signing a lot of players from the draft, they had tryouts for anybody to fill roles. The teams
Montage.
the teams hoped that the teams hoped that former NBA or college players would show up, but usually just anybody. Steve Jones, who was a really great player in the ABA, who played in college and showed up, he called the tryout camps the 100 Rifles camp because 100 guys would show up and do nothing but shoot. There was no passing.
Oh God.
Just guys would just show up and just brick the ball.
100 rifles is so funny. 100
On rifle
rifles.
salute, baby.
Yeah.
Iceman. White chocolate.
He said that in his tryout, all of these guys, the coaches were like, okay, we should just do drills and just see who can actually run. And they get, okay, you can't run, you get cut. You don't know what a figure 8 is, you're cut. And so you could eventually dwindle it down to guys who actually knew something about basketball.
Right. Fundamentals.
Yes. The Denver Rockets had a tryout with 100 guys, but it got too hot in the gym, so they opened the doors. Then the smog outside rolled in, so they had to postpone the
And they all
tryout.
died.
Denver signed a guy named Lefty Thomas. He wore a ring on every finger. Every time he was past the ball, he would drive left and then shoot it. He played 62 games. He had 55 assists. An assist is when you pass the ball to another guy and they score.
Lefty, because he always goes left.
Yep.
And he's got the fucking
He's
like
got
the
a
Mandarin.
ring on every
And
finger.
they call him that. Like Lefty. I wonder where he's gonna go.
Dallas also signed a guy named Maurice Toothpick McHartley.
The tooth.
He wouldn't play unless he had a toothpick in his mouth.
Died choking on a toothpick in a pick and roll.
Every game he had a toothpick hanging out of his mouth.
Good guy.
Yeah, nice guy.
He started with cigarettes. It was a step up for him.
That's true.
Yeah. The only reason I can't have a cigarette.
Yeah. He could have. I mean, not while playing, but yeah. Dallas also tried to sign a guy named A.W. Holt, but he walked out of the signing meeting, and when he was asked why he didn't sign, he said, I made up my mind before I came here that unless I got a $1,000 bonus, I wasn't going to sign. But all they offered me was $1,500.
What?
Oh my God.
You don't want that guy on your team.
No.
They eventually got him to walk back in and sign.
Somebody
With
had to
an X?
explain. Somebody had to go out in the parking lot and explain.
Yeah.
It's $1,000 plus more.
Nah.
He's like, sounds fishy.
I don't know. I got to run this by myself.
He's like, I just want $1,000. They're like, okay,
50.
fine.
Fine, yeah, fine. Whatever.
Fine.
Best I
Whatever.
can do is 1,000.
The Indiana Pacers had a tryout, and 7,000 fans showed up to watch. The only problem was the general manager forgot to buy the basketballs.
Holy Lord.
So they went through an hour of guys doing figure eights pretending to pass basketballs.
But
also, you know,
a very smart.
You can still make cuts during that, yeah.
Yeah, you can just see who's got the who's got the vision.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Guys,
You put fucking 100 Michael Jordans out there, they'll run the best figure eight you've ever seen in your life.
This guy was probably thinking, I should start an imaginary league.
Yeah, the IBL.
Well, if I had the ball, I'd be dunking it all day long.
Everybody's dunking. Highest scores you've ever seen.
Indiana agreed with Freddie Lewis to sign him for $15,000. Only one thing, he insisted that he needed a new fridge. His was broken. They got him a used one, and he signed.
Smart.
Mel Daniels, he was a great player in the league. He was signed by the Cincinnati Royals of the NBA and the Minnesota Muskies of the ABA. Minnesota offered him $24,000 a year with a $12,000 signing bonus. Most NBA players at the time were making under $10,000.
Damn.
So he took the deal. He was the first NBA draft pick to choose the ABA.
Money talks, baby.
I mean, a lot of these guys, it's going to come up again and again. So many of these guys are fucking poor as shit.
Yeah.
And they go to college, make no money in college, and they're told, when you make us a ton of money and then you graduate, because the NBA had a rule with the colleges, they wouldn't sign anybody before 4 years were up.
Yeah.
So they had to go to school for 4 years, play basketball, not get injured, be great, and then they could
Get exploited.
And then maybe they could get invited to a tryout and get signed for $8,000.
And maybe make money.
Yes.
And not have to work at a used car lot in the offseason.
Yeah. Which a lot of guys had.
A lot of athletes, football players especially, ran fucking car dealerships in the offseason.
Yeah.
Yep.
This is really very, very little money.
And they still do.
Yeah.
I mean, not because they have to, because they can't. But
Now, preseason started in Denver. In Denver, they didn't have a red, white, and blue ball, so someone just took a brown ball and spray painted it. There were 44 turnovers in the first half. More
it was so spray painted.
because it was so slippery, no one could hold on to it.
Oh, my God.
That's more than double a full game's average. Also in Denver, to save money, the team trainer wasn't a doctor, but a poultry farmer.
Oh.
Kentucky had
well, they're famous for fried chicken.
yeah. I think Kentucky's doctor was he was a kid's doctor.
Right.
He's a
Pediatrician.
yeah. Which is, not bad.
It's better than being a fucking poultry doctor.
Yeah. The player said that someone asked the trainer, because you wouldn't bring your trainer to an opposing team. No owner would pay for that. So you always had to use the home team's trainer. And so all these players got their ankles taped too tightly, would have to do it themselves. And one guy was like, "Hey, where's your doctorate from?" And he's like, "Oh, no. I run a poultry farm.
I'm a chicken man.
Yeah.
I'm a simple chicken man."
Anaheim's owner, Art Kim there, in order to make some extra money, he had this realization. He said, because the league had a rule that franchises had to split ticket sales. And he figured opening games would have the most fans. So he decided to have his team play as many games on the road as possible, as many opening games at other people's places as possible. Because that would make him the most money. So over the course of 13 days at the beginning of the season, the Anaheim Amigos played 6 games, from Oakland to Denver to Dallas to Indiana to Kentucky to Minnesota.
All opening games.
All opening games. They flew coach, multiple layovers at every stop.
Jesus Lord.
They lost their first 5 games. Their first game at home, they also lost. Art Kim didn't want to give players meal money for the whole trip. He would only give it to them daily because he worried if he gave them all of their money, some of them wouldn't come back.
Right.
At one of the games in Anaheim, 98 people were in attendance.
Hey.
And multiple times Anaheim would arrive in a city and hotels wouldn't take them in because they still owed money from the last time they were there.
Holy shit.
Denver's owner also owned the Aspen Airlines, so Denver got a private plane. The only problem was that it was a DC-3 built in 1941.
Oh, with propellers?
Yeah. Luckily, their pilot had flown in the German Air Force, and he could handle
Pieces of shit.
I was in the Luftwaffe.
I'm used to flying planes being...
I never thought to be flying all these black men.
Why is there so many Schwarzer in the coach? Who's the owner of this team? Scheinbaum? Ruben? Kim? What names are these?
It works with the Germans when he does it.
In character.
Yeah.
The New Jersey Americans their jerseys didn't arrive on time, so they had to play in white T-shirts with numbers written in marker, and the players wore whatever shorts or sweatpants they had with them.
Dude, this is embarrassing.
It's a real shit show.
What year is this now? 1970?
67.
It's 67?
Yeah.
Vietnam raging.
Yeah. The best guy's going, do I want to play for them or go to Vietnam?
I hear they have good heroin and sucky over there.
Yeah.
It's too beaucoup.
These guys probably thought they'd be better off in Vietnam.
Yeah.
No, they didn't because they still got to play basketball
Yeah.
at a high level. But in New Orleans, the game was delayed for half an hour because the electricity had gone out because a possum had gotten to the wiring.
Oh,
my
no.
God.
And he wasn't making it better.
And he was not certified.
No.
I was not doing things to code.
No.
But
He was sleeping on the job.
yeah. New Orleans' first coach was a man named Babe McCarthy, a.k.a. Old Magnolia Mouth. He had a real southern twang to his voice, but he was a good man, a former college coach at Mississippi State, and the first coach in the Deep South to let his team play against black players.
Oh.
In college back then, a lot of Deep South
To
basketball
let
teams.
his team play against them, not
Yes.
to have any on his team.
No, I think he would have been open to that. Whether the school would allow it, I don't know if that's it. But
Well, if it's what's best for the sport,
Yeah.
it's a thing where you go like, we should go against the best, whatever, fucking.
Are you saying that black players are inherently better than whites?
I'm saying for the time, it's good for him to take on that challenge to show that it's absurd.
yes, and
Good jujitsu there, John.
As-
Very good.
as coach of
That's what I mean. You know it's
all
what I
right,
mean.
Okay.
as the coach of the New Orleans Buccaneers, a lot of his players had trouble finding housing in New Orleans because they were black, and he went out of his way to make sure that he could find them housing.
Right.
What a good guy.
When he was an NCAA coach for Mississippi State, he had the team sneak out of town in the middle of the night to go play a black team because the
Cool.
townspeople wouldn't have let them leave.
Really?
That's
Yeah.
fucking crazy.
Yeah.
Like,
in the middle
to-
of the night?
There, it's one thing to be like, we don't want you to let black players on our team.
Mhm.
It's another thing to be like, we don't want you letting them play against black.
Well, I mean,
guys.
think about how
the fuck it. Why?
how sad your belief is that you don't even want it remotely challenged.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
It's disgusting.
It's
It's sad. It's low. It's small dick energy.
Mm-hmm.
It's unthinkable.
Yeah.
it's preposterous.
It's like,
really.
you can't play against talls.
Yeah.
No, you can't play against tall people. Or like it's so.
And then if they lost to the black team, the excuse would be like, well, they're more animalistic, they have higher energy. There wouldn't be any sort of rationale
No,
to.
It's fucking stupid.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we've talked about it too with the MLB and the Negro leagues and stuff like that, and especially with baseball and how nerdy baseball people get about our nation's pastime. It's a thing where, like, obviously the Negro leagues were making such crazy moves and having such superstar players that any good sportsman would be like, how can you not imagine going up against
Just straight up other professionals.
yeah
Take whatever bias you want to impart on it or project upon it.
but you can't when it's just a game. You can't take any of that bias there. It's just, can you win, can you not?
Yeah.
Like, it's not as if they can like dupe you out of you know what I mean?
Right,
like
no,
you're
that's
just
what-
playing a
yeah,
game.
exactly. There's no reason to see it to be like, well, let's just play. Let's see what happens.
Oh, of course.
And I think
It's a game.
if you asked most players, the majority, even at that time, would have said, I want to play against the best people.
Yeah.
I don't want to play against someone who's not as good.
Yeah.
Or and maybe they're not. Let's find that. The whole
Exactly,
point is
yeah.
let's find out.
Yeah.
Right. And that's the thing too with even like, in not even like a racially kind of way, but the idea of, having several different boxing titles.
Right.
And you being like, oh, well, I can't go against them because I'm not in that thing. And you go like, no, you can. It's a sport. Everybody
Just
wants to
fight.
see
Play.
what would happen. And that's why you have all those united titles.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's why UFC got so popular in the beginning. It was like,
Right.
all right, put the fucking judo guy, against
Exactly,
the sumo
right,
guy,
right.
whatever. Who cares?
Yeah.
Right.
And it's kind of brilliant.
Yeah.
Babe McCarthy also had a thing as an ABA coach. If one of his players was on a bad run, he'd say, guys, we got to get this boy loose. He'd leave practice, and he'd come back with a woman on each arm and say, I got a couple ladies that would like to make your acquaintance.
Oh, boy.
You go get him laid?
Yeah. It's just good coaching.
Aaron, it's good that you put that together.
Oh, I don't know.
He got him laid. Like, he needs it sounded out.
Why did they have? Well, he didn't have to bring him back to the fucking gym.
It
He's
is
just
cool,
showing
though.
off. at
Maybe
this
he would be
point.
like, you boys need to come back and watch me make love to
Yeah.
these two ladies. And work on your fundamentals.
That's right.
Babe McCarthy would often say he was going out scouting, but it just meant he was going to the bar for a while.
Oh, yeah.
Cool.
But also the league, they also had. I can't believe I wrote down. Here we go. They actually, not in the first year because most teams didn't actually pay attention to this, but they eventually kept really good stats. The ABA is the first league to come up with offensive and defensive rebounds, to split those into two. First time that they kept turnovers.
Important stat.
They called them errors. The first time they kept steals.
Really?
First time they kept block shots, and the first time they kept team rebounds.
Dude, there's only like 4 other things to keep track of. What the fuck were these people doing?
Why do you think they zoned in on that? Like, what do you think?
Well, because the guy who was the I think he was the PR director of the league. This guy named Lee Mead. He convinced one of the guys who was running the league that he wanted to do the stats.
Yeah.
And he was a guy who had been reporting on basketball, and
Yeah.
he was like, "These are the stats I keep when I'm
Myself.
watching."
Right.
Right.
And so I think these are
Yeah.
important.
And also understanding that people love fucking stats.
Yeah.
And it does factor into the science of a game.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so the first year, he had a lot of problems with teams just sending him stats. So a lot of the stats for the first year, maybe 2 years,
Added.
are not padded, but he would just do like a mathematical, average for like a
Regression
game.
on
He
him,
did,
be like,
yeah.
all right. Most of these guys are 4% off. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's like, all these stats are Barnumized. So I'm going to just tidy them up a little bit.
And also,
Moneyball, baby.
the ABA also had plenty of fighting.
Cool.
It was an exciting time.
That's very exciting.
So the first official ABA game was played Friday, October 13th, 1967.
Friday the 13th.
Yeah.
Good.
The Oakland Oaks beat the Anaheim Amigos 132-129 in front of 4,828 fans in the Oakland Coliseum. Willie Porter scored the first points with a tip in 64 seconds of the game. The Oaks put up 70 points in the first half. Anaheim's Les Selvage hit 4 3-pointers. And Indiana had 10,800 people for their opener. The fire marshal had to turn away 2,000 people.
Good Lord.
Indiana was hot for basketball.
Historically and
still
presently.
is,
yeah.
still is, but there was no professional team there, and people took to it like fucking gangbusters. Indiana was one of the great success stories of the ABA.
Yes.
And it's crazy. It's such a state that's associated with basketball and almost nothing else.
You're right. Corn.
Car racing?
Yeah.
Corn.
Is it? Yeah,
Not
I
even
said
corn, dude. That's Iowa.
Nebraska.
No,
Yeah.
Indiana is the Indy 500
Yeah.
and basketball.
Yeah.
Right. But
That's all. End the list. Like, I wonder how much that is a modern thing or
No. I mean, like I said, they had 7,000 people show up to a tryout
Yeah.
to watch.
It was just a market that they didn't
Yeah.
touch.
Yeah.
I think it was just an untapped.
And there wasn't a guy in Indiana with 1.5 million who could join the NBA.
Yeah.
Thank God for the ABA.
And they're called the Pacers. Why, Matt?
I don't know, Aaron.
The pace cars for the Indy 500.
Oh, wow. That's very good.
Oh.
I did not know that. Mel Daniels, who played for Indiana, I think he played for the entire time they were in the ABA. He said that first season he played 78 games. He had 78 fights.
Batting 1,000.
Indiana's player coach. A lot of these teams had a player who's also the coach or coach.
Tagging coach.
Indiana's was Cliff Hagan. He was notorious for fighting. Once in Pittsburgh, an opposing player started elbowing him at the tip-off. So after the ball was thrown in the air, Hagan just reached back and just slapped the man across the face. Hey, off the court, Hagan was the sweetest man. He collected antiques and cut glass.
Oh.
He had a very lovely family. But the moment he put a uniform on, he would say, "Let's play this one for blood."
Oh my God, I
Yeah.
love this guy.
During a pickup game, he knocked the Indiana team's general manager into a brick wall, knocking him out.
Brickyard
my
500,
God.
also Indiana.
Once during an away game, Hagen asked the ball boys for a key to the locker room. When the team went into the locker room at halftime, all the windows were open and freezing cold. And Hagen said, "Do you see this shit? They're treating us like we're some bullshit."
That's so funny.
It's very good motivation.
Oh, your dick's looking tiny.
Yeah.
During a home game in Indiana on Kids Day with 7,000 kids in attendance, 7,000 people in attendance, mostly kids, a man named Les Hunter started elbowing Hagen 15 seconds into the game. They had some words, and everybody figured that was that. And then the next time down the floor, Hunter elbowed Hagen again. This time Hagen turned around without saying a word, hit him, right, left, right, knocked Hunter down and out for 30 seconds. Hunter would later say, I've never been hit that hard in my life.
Jesus.
Hagen was kicked out. This is Kids Day, mind you.
Hey,
Yeah.
you got to teach him a lesson.
And he was the head coach. There was no assistants back then. So
Yep.
every time he got kicked out, the team just had to just play.
Figure it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Figure eights.
So the general manager said to him, if you next time you do that, we'll fine you $2,500. And Hagen said, look, if I can't fight, I can't play.
Wow.
So the general manager said, you're not allowed to wear your shorts. You can wear your warm-up gear, but no shorts. That way, because you can't go in the game if you don't have shorts on. And so Hagen did that until one night at Anaheim, the general manager heard someone told him that Hagen put his shorts on. He goes, oh, no, fuck. And Hagen, the whole game, Hagen doesn't go in. 40 seconds left, the game is tied. Hagen takes off his warm-ups, puts himself in the game, immediately hits the game-winning shot with a hook shot,
and beats the shit.
an opposing player jumps on his back, he turns around and knocks him out.
Jesus Christ.
He was in the game for 5 seconds.
Oh
The game
my
is
God.
over.
The game is still, no, they haven't even, he hit the shot, people are cheering, the refs are running around, this guy jumps his back, knocks him out, 5 seconds that all takes, but the refs never saw the punch.
Oh my God.
And so he stayed in the game, and he didn't get fined by his own team.
He's a hockey goon in the ABA.
Yeah.
They also do
Lost coach.
play with this in the in semi-pro, where Will Ferrell is a player coach.
Yeah.
The LA Times, one of the LA Times reporters said that during that first season, in order to get to the foul line, you had to show the ref your x-rays.
Oh my God.
Now, the three-point line was also a huge difference in the game. It was 23 feet, 9 inches, the same distance used as the NBA today. Anaheim's Les Selvage loved to shoot him. Someone joked that it was almost like if he crossed the three-point line, he would die. He shot it 461 times that first season, more than every team but one. Now, these days,
More than every other team could, like,
the entire team but
He
one.
shot more than every other.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
dude, there were plenty. There's a lot of examples, especially in college, of teams that gamed that system. Like,
Yeah.
listen, if you take enough shots behind the free throw line, uncontested, like, it's worth that gamble.
Yeah.
Math works out.
Three-point line, yeah. Yeah, I mean, these days, the record for most attempts is now 800-something by Steph Curry, set last year.
Wow.
But even
And
then,
most makes.
yeah. I think Steph Curry made 400 in a year.
Yeah. Incredible.
But Les averaged 32% from the three-point line, similar to his two-point shooting percentage. And again, seeing that red, white, and blue ball go that distance was very exciting for people.
Yeah.
Pretty.
By the way, Steph Curry just did a show with fucking David Wayne. Everybody says he's legitimately funny.
It's unfair how talented some of these guys are.
Like-
Blake Griffin, too, is another one of them.
Yeah.
Plus, he got Lana Rhodes pregnant.
That's cool. That is cool.
Blake Griffin,
Porn star Lana Rhodes,
Yeah.
folks, if you're not
Yeah.
dialed in.
incredible basketball player,
Mm-hmm.
legitimately funny guy.
Mm-hmm.
Also, knocked up Lana Rhodes.
Just like fucking killing it in the NBA, and then you just on while you're off, you go like
To the Laugh Factory.
film a fucking like sitcom where everybody's like, oh no, he's legitimately funny.
God damn, it's so unfair. I don't
It's
like
okay.
it.
No, it's okay.
I do like it.
It's okay. But there were not a lot of fans, and because they weren't. Most teams, the Indiana was playing at like a real arena. Most teams were playing in what were basically high school arenas.
Right.
Some teams had high school bands playing during the game.
Yeah, convention hall kind of like.
Moose
Yeah.
Lodge.
There was when I was watching the documentary, there was a shot. There was a car parked out of bounds in one of the shots.
On blocks.
Yeah.
There,
Yeah. He's gonna be smashing the
I
monster
parked my
truck
car
rally.
and a basketball game popped up.
Yeah.
here's a picture from Dallas. One of their games.
Oh my God.
They're playing in a high school arena. There's just a guy. There's so few people. There's no one around him. He's just laying down,
Yeah.
watching.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Eating his corn nuts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably houseless.
Oh, come on.
What? I don't know.
No, you could have just been there. You know, it was a cheap ticket. In the
The leg room.
Yeah. In the first ABA final, the Pittsburgh Pipers, led by Connie Hawkins, beat the New Orleans Buccaneers 122-113 in the seventh and final game. They said that all of the guys, especially the first championship, all of those guys who won, they were in the locker room crying because like they never got to get in the NBA.
Mm-hmm.
This was their first chance at and they all felt a camaraderie with each other for being a part of this thing.
Yeah.
And they knew that basketball wasn't bad. They knew it was pretty good. They all kind of felt like it might be as good as the NBA.
Yeah.
Right.
And so it was a really big deal for a lot of these guys, well, almost all of these guys to win a championship
Of course.
in the ABA.
And to be paid for playing basketball.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In the first season, Wes Bialascunia set the record for longest name at 11 letters.
Is that one of the stats that they kept in the ABA that they didn't in the NBA?
Well, because when they made the sheet for filling out people's names, they used his name as the template for no one else can have names longer than 11 letters.
Right.
His nickname was the typographical terror.
That's
Wow, that's funny. Oh my God.
He once made 9 straight 3-pointers. Barry Leibowitz set the record for most trades. He was traded 3 times in 4 months.
Leibowitz.
Yeah. Ben Worley once made 16 consecutive shots and set the record for most pro teams played for. At that point, it was 7 in 3 different leagues. New Jersey and Kentucky tied for the last playoff berth and had to play a 1-game playoff. Winner gets the playoffs. But the game was moved to New Jersey's home arena, the Teaneck Armory, but they had to leave that because it was already booked for the circus.
Ah.
So the game was moved to the Comac Arena in Long Island.
Okay.
When the teams arrived, they found the floor was full of broken wood and loose nuts and bolts.
Oh, no.
New Jersey was ordered to forfeit the game. The next year, their home court was moved to the Comac Arena.
Same place.
Yeah. Connie Hawkins was the most valuable player of the first season. ABA finances were claimed as $2.5 million in losses, about $23.5 today. Oakland lost $750,000, Anaheim $500,000. Franchises were then offered to anyone who could produce a certified $50,000 check against a $650,000 purchase price. After their first season, the championship season, the Pittsburgh Pipers moved to Minnesota. Didn't make any sense to anybody but George Mikan. The first Minnesota team had terrible attendance. They had moved to Florida. Mikan wanted a team in Minnesota because that's where he lived, and he insisted the league office be there because he didn't want to travel to New York.
Right.
Because he was a Minneapolis Laker.
Yeah. And during the draft that year, in 1969, the Pittsburgh front office didn't realize that they were making draft picks while reading the 1968 version of the basketball magazine.
I'm sorry, what?
The Pittsburgh front office didn't realize that they were making picks using the previous
Last year's
Oh my God.
Pittsburgh's head championship winning
swing state. This is a swing state.
Yeah.
Pittsburgh's championship winning head coach didn't want to move his family to Minnesota, so he quit the team. The new coach had no pro experience and tried to make his best player, Connie Hawkins, change the form of his jump shot.
What?
In the second game of the season, he only played 6 players. At the All-Star banquet in the second season, the now Minnesota guys, a couple of them didn't show up. The new coach said, these guys won't be able to pick up their paychecks with a spoon when I get through them. The owner of the now Minnesota team took offense to this, so they both got in a fight, a brawl at the awards ceremony.
Jesus Christ, that's awesome.
Fucking AVNs.
Oh my God.
Pittsburgh, now Minnesota, was knocked out of the first round of the playoffs by Miami, formerly of Minnesota. After the season, Pittsburgh moved back from Minnesota to Pittsburgh. Renamed themselves the Condors. They held a contest for a new name. It was a 25-word limit to make it.
Somebody wrote condom, but they misread it.
Yeah, the person who won was Condors, and then a bunch of people wrote in complaining that they didn't write theirs within 25 words. and it shouldn't be the Condors.
Oh my God.
Connie Hawkins left Pittsburgh for the Phoenix Suns of the NBA.
Hey.
For the rest of the ABA, anybody who traded to Pittsburgh was traded into a nightmare.
Yeah.
It was so bad there that opposing teams' radio broadcasters would be charged if they tried to set up equipment or get into the arena. Because the guys owning the arena were not being paid by the basketball team.
Oh my God.
Every time that an opposing team tried to set up their radio broadcast, they had to do it in a different place in the arena because the last place they were in, the telephone lines had been cut by the telephone company.
Oh my God. Holy shit.
In Pittsburgh, once they had a promotion that gave away 1,000 cupcakes. At halftime, they brought up the winner. He told them that he was diabetic, and the whole crowd booed him.
Oh my God. You fucking homo! Eat the fucking cake!
Once they,
Boo. I'm
You ungrateful winner. That's what they think he's ungrateful.
yeah. Another night, they gave away...
all hopped up on sugar, ready to hate.
Another night, they gave away wristwatches. When the PA man said, and now for the winners of the wristwatches, the whole crowd booed.
Elitists.
They just didn't want anyone.
You can read time
Because they
when you
didn't win.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
In 1970, Pittsburgh signed Charlie Helicopter Hentz. He was 6'6", 230. He could jump over anybody. The only problem was he could never figure out how to time his jump, so he could never rebound the ball correctly.
Oh my God.
However, he did make basketball history. In a game against Carolina in the 1970 season, he was the first professional player to break the basketball rim off the hoop.
Cool.
He went up for a tremendous dunk, pulled the rim down, shattering the glass backboard. Took half an hour to get another hoop. This one had a wood backboard. With a minute left in the game, he did the exact same thing in the one remaining glass backboard, and there was no hoops left and the game was abandoned.
Wow.
Pretty awesome. What's his name for posterity?
Charlie Helicopter Hentz.
Shout out to you.
They said after he did the second one, he stood there just laughing, holding the rim in his hands.
Holy shit, that's wild.
It's pretty cool.
Oh my God.
In the second season, 1968, and go back a little bit, Kentucky was the first team to ever play a woman.
Really?
Yeah. Her name was Penny Early. She was 110 pounds, 5'3". She had been accepted as the first licensed women's horse jockey.
Huh.
And all of the male jockeys then boycotted all the races she was in.
Dude, what
Real,
the?
strong men.
Yeah, I mean, but they're also little tykes
They're all,
themselves.
yeah, they were
Like,
all,
well,
they
yeah.
were 5'4", 111.
Just race better. So the Kentucky Colonels,
Race.
seizing this publicity, signed her to a contract. The coach did not agree with this and did not want to play her until one game he was ordered by the owner to play her.
So she wasn't a basketball player.
No.
This was a publicity stunt.
Yes. November.
But she sank fucking 10 threes.
Yeah. November 28th, 1968. She wore a miniskirt and a turtleneck, and
Ooh,
with number
that's
3 on the
so
back,
conflicting.
and to represent number 3 on the back to represent the 3 boycotted races.
Oh.
And she warmed up with the team. Early in the game, during a timeout, the coach got his orders. He put her in. She checked into the game. There's pictures of her checking in. It was a big thing. She took the ball from out of bounds. She inbounded it to a player on the team. He immediately called timeout, and she was substituted out of the game.
Oh, that's fucking shitty.
Yeah. And she never played basketball again.
Damn.
Well, she never played basketball before that either.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
it's fine.
Yeah.
But also, this is a thing that is sort of played up in semi-pro too, that they were doing the Barnum thing of like, let's do sensational stuff to get attention to our league.
Quadruple amputee center.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I mean, it was all so many stunts. One team had Muhammad Ali do kind of like a fake fight before the game.
Yeah.
But they realized they should have done it afterwards because all of the fans that showed up left
When he was done.
before the game started.
You had to go fight Superman.
But they had great halftime entertainment. Indiana had a guy who he would dance during the games and pretend to he would give hexes on the opposing teams during the
Did
dance.
Doctor Strange finger
Kind
magic?
of, yeah. There was a man fought a bear during halftime once.
Nope.
The bear did have a big muzzle on.
Okay. Yeah. A man played around with a disabled bear is what really happened.
Yes.
I mean, still doesn't mean you're going to come out alive.
No, you're definitely right.
Yeah.
You're right about that.
Okay. 1968, the second season. Trouble began. Houston's owner, T.C. Moore.
The trouble began?
Trouble continued.
Trouble continued. Yeah.
1968, Houston's owner, T.C. Moore, one of the richest men in the country. He fell in love with the girl who worked the registration desk at the Disneyland Hotel in Anaheim, where the league owners met. And he decided he wanted to get rid of his team because his new wife, quote, wasn't basketball-oriented.
Huh.
He couldn't find an owner or another buyer, so he wanted to fold the team. Upon hearing this, Denver's owner, who was also one of the few truly wealthy people, decided that this wasn't going to work. He wanted to get out too, and he said, don't let the team fly on their next road trip, which was that morning.
Which was his airline.
Yes. So this guy, Dick Tinkham,
Funny name.
he was one of the founders of the ABA, and he knew this owner liked to drink. So he said, hey, Bill, let's go get a drink. It was 8:30 in the morning. So they go out, they get a bottle of Old Fashioned.
Oh, yikes.
And they just start tearing it down. Eventually, after like an hour of this, the owner's son shows up and says the team already left on the road trip. So Tinkham's like, good, okay, so I got him. He can't stop him from going. And then Tinkham, he's chatting with the guy. He gets the owner to bet on a game.
Illegal.
Yeah. And then he says, just to keep the conversation going, And then he says, hey, there's some guys in Carolina that want to start an NBA team. What if instead of them starting a team, we can convince them to buy the Houston team, and then you don't have to worry about a team dropping out? So they make a deal with they meet with the Carolina people, and they make a deal with them. They say, I know you guys want us, you could start a new team for $500,000.
Mm-hmm.
But for only $350,000, you can buy this team in Houston, let them play this season, and then you can move them. And the guys go, okay, great. They agree with this. And they move this team to North Carolina. And the team in North Carolina wasn't always a winning team, but Carolina is a huge basketball state. Because they have Duke and North Carolina,
Yes.
Wake Forest, and NC State, and all these teams.
Road.
Yeah. The one mistake the team made is that a bunch of different teams would do this sort of thing, but they would be a regional team and not a specific city team.
Right.
So Carolina would play in Raleigh, in Greensboro, and I forget somewhere else. Even though like Greensboro, they had better attendance, they should have just stayed there.
Right.
But it was a thing of like, let's try to get
Yeah.
as many cities involved as possible. And one of the teams in Texas would do this too. I think they kind of pioneered the idea of a regional team,
Right.
which was also shitty for their own players. Let's see. So Jim Gardner was one of the guys from the North Carolina group. He was a congressman and multimillionaire from the Hardee's restaurant chain. Tinkham believes by doing this, he saved the ABA, because if those two guys go out, those two teams go out, the leagues, yeah. And Houston was really terrible. They set a record for smallest crowd with 89 people.
Guys, we set a record.
Yeah. But also, sometimes you never knew what to think about the attendance. The guy who owned the LA Stars, if he didn't think enough people were coming through the gate, he would go up to the turnstiles and just start whipping them around with his hand to get the number, because they had a board by the scoreboard with the number of attendance, and he was like, "This isn't." And so, like halfway through the first quarter, you'd be like, 100 people are entering right now.
Right.
Wow, it must be fucking free taco night.
In 2 seasons, Houston was 52-104. Now, back in the second season, on the court, Rick Barry stepped away from the radio mic. He played for the Oakland Oaks. With him, they went on a 16-game win streak. He averaged 34 points and 9 rebounds till he blew out his knee halfway through the season. But they still finished the regular season with 60 wins, 18 losses. They won the championship, led by Larry Brown and Doug Moe, who had moved from New Orleans to Oakland at that point.
Mm-hmm.
During one of the championship games in Oakland, in front of a packed crowd of 7,000, George Mikan made a speech that started with, "It sure is nice to be here in Oklahoma." After winning the title, the Oaks coach Alex Hannum wired the Boston Celtics coach Red Auerbach to challenge the NBA champions to play the ABA champions. Auerbach wasn't interested. I watched a documentary about the ABA, and Auerbach he was alive in this. This is like late 90s, and he's sitting at a desk fucking smoking a cigar. He sounds exactly like a mob boss.
Yeah.
The entire
exactly
time.
how you think he sounds.
And he's like, those guys, it was just, it was no good.
Yeah.
The league wasn't any good.
And this is when the Celtics had won like 11 championships in a row.
Yeah.
He's like, what am I going to do? Send my guys to Oklahoma?
Sprain an ankle on a fucking floor with nuts and bolts all over it.
Yeah. He never gave the league any respect, and constantly hated on the league in the press. And both of the leagues had a similar amount of scoring.
Right.
Like the amount of points per game was very similar to both of the leagues.
Yeah.
Anyway. Now, the players of Oakland, they were given championship rings made of green glass. And because there was only 10 players on the team, they were pretty happy with splitting the $4,500 winners reward. The season itself cost owner Pat Boone $1.3 million. He said he wanted to show Elizabeth Taylor the ring because she had a lot of expensive jewelry, but nothing that cost $1.3 million.
Check out this green glass that cost me $1 million.
Yeah.
After that season, he sold the team because Bank of America informed him that his team was actually owed the Bank of America $2.5 million.
Jesus Christ.
Hear that, Liz?
Yeah.
The ring's price just went up.
Yeah, one of his co-owner was just bad at money.
Right.
So I want you to consider that. The first two title-winning teams of the ABA immediately, even though they won the title, were
bankrupt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And wanted to move or had no money or needed to sell the team.
Yeah.
After that season, Oakland moved to Washington, D.C. They changed their name from the Oaks to the Capitals, but they still had to play in the Western Division.
Oh, my God. Just because of outstanding financial.
Rick Barry, their star, he didn't want to play in Virginia. He had a rule in his contract that's either Carolina or New York. So in order to force the hand of the owner, the new owner.
What's that about?
Well, because he was in the NBA. He didn't want to play in the middle of nowhere.
Right.
So to force the hand of the owner, he was interviewed by Sports Illustrated about the league and about himself. And during the interview, he was quoted as saying, "I don't want my kids growing up and saying, 'Hi, y'all, Dad.'"
Hi, y'all, Dad?
Would you want that?
Sounds
horrible.
I don't think it'd be something they would say. I think they'd probably just say, "Hi, Dad."
Yeah, right.
Well, yeah, and you don't want them to say, "Hi, y'all, Dad."
Yeah, but I don't think they're going to say that anywhere.
Who knows?
Yeah, but it was just, he admitted, he was like, "Nah, I just said it because I didn't want to play there."
Yeah.
And I had to make the owner. So the owner actually was forced to sell him to New York. And someone pointed out, it was like, "Oh, you go to New York, so where your kid's going to say, 'Hey, you's Dad.'"
Hey,
Should we take a quick break? Or do you have a spot?
Yes.
Okay.
I'll take a quick break after this. Goo Kennedy.
Goo.
That's it. I just wrote that down. There was a player named Goo Kennedy.
Yeah. Good guy.
Yeah.
Solid guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's it. I wrote that down because it's just fun.
All right.
But he probably was shooting goo.
Yeah, from the 3-point line.
Yeah. That's how he got his name, Goo Kennedy. Who's got to cover him?
Who's he covering?
Yeah.
Who's Roosevelt?
All right, we'll take a break there.
Sure.
Be right back, folks. We love you. And we're back.
Hey, basketball, huh?
I do, and I know that I think this is celebrated pretty well in semi-pro, and obviously that team goes on to do the Lakers show Winning Time on HBO.
Not the team, the Tropics, but the team
The
behind
team- yeah.
Semi-Pro went on to do
Right.
Winning Time on HBO
Yeah.
about the Lakers.
Right. Which apparently led to the split with the writer, what's his name, and Will Ferrell.
Adam McKay?
Adam McKay, because apparently he really wanted to do it, and it went to John C. Reilly instead.
Will Ferrell wanted to be Jerry Buss?
According to Adam McKay. That was the reason why, like,
Didn't it fuck up the relationship?
Funny or Die.
John C. Reilly's a better actor.
Yeah. And so I guess Will found out from John C. Reilly, and Adam McKay was like, oh, yeah, I kind of fucked up this, like, decades-long friendship and entertainment partnership. And he's like, he just doesn't respond to my emails anymore. But
he's friends with this trans person that they go on road trips with. What the hell's up with that? Said Adam McKay.
no, he did not.
Funny if he did, though.
No, that's all you. But obviously, big love of basketball there, and going on the ABA and seizing on this thing that I think what we're hearing from Matt is very clearly an island of misfit toys.
Yeah.
From the top down.
Yes.
Yeah, ragtag bunch of misfits.
Yeah, the players wouldn't be let in the NBA. The owners wouldn't be either. With a few exceptions.
The scouts,
Yeah.
everybody is
It's all rejects.
yeah, they're all rejects, and
or disgruntled.
but
or...
they're trying to make it happen, and they're kind of succeeding, and it's
fun.
It's very fun.
Yeah. So, now, one of the best things the ABA did was, I think it was after their second season, I think it was, they rated the NBA for 4 of its best refs.
Huh.
Because even the refs in the NBA weren't being paid well either. And the ABA said, you guys are the best refs in the NBA. You sign with us and we'll give you real
Your
money.
worth. You won't have to gamble or take bribes anymore.
Yeah, you just have to.
Plus, you still can.
You have to decide who wins the fights.
Yeah.
Have you any boxing experience?
Want a clean fight?
John Vanek was one of the refs. His last NBA game last season before he moved to the ABA, he made $22,000. He said when he was with the ABA, he never made less than 60.
Jesus Christ.
He said moving there changed his life.
Wow.
And it was, it really shone a light on how much the NBA
was exploitative.
Yes.
Hoarding wealth.
Yes.
Fucking assholes.
So, now, you remember the Minnesota Muskies that moved to Miami?
Uh-huh.
Now, they became the Miami Floridians. I think I forget what their original name was, but they changed it Floridians to be like, we're for all of Florida. They became a little bit of a regional team. They were around for 4 years after they moved before folding. But they were also unique. At one point, they had 8 owners. Every week, the owners would go around and asking if everybody had put in their money for the payroll that week. And then the papers would write things like, the Floridians met the payroll, so they'll play tonight.
Damn.
One of the owners traded for Art Hyman without telling the other owners. Art Hyman showed up. He was interviewed by TV4 Miami. Hyman was asked by the reporter live on air. He asked the reporter live on air during this interview, said, hey, does this go out to Miami Beach? The reporter said yes. Hyman said, hello, Jews out there. Your boy is here.
Yeah, Hyman.
Hell yeah.
Hello, Jews.
But they, in the documentary, people were pointing out, like, Miami Beach? None of these old people are showing up to games.
Yeah,
Right.
it's not the South Beach that we know today.
So someone told one of the owners, they said, this place would be packed if you opened up a gambling booth here.
Hey, why do you think we opened up an ABA team?
But also,
is a gambling
Jewish
booth.
people do love basketball.
Yeah, but not old not snowbirds. I think is what the point was. It's not old former Coney Island Jews who have moved down to Miami for their retirement. I think is the times change.
One night, Miami, they had this a very beloved player named Laverne Tart. And one night, they decided that they were going to have a Laverne Tart night. But it turns out the night before that, they traded him to another team.
Oh, my dear God.
And so they had to wait for him to come back with another team before they could have their Laverne Tart night.
Oh.
Meanwhile, the tarts went stale.
Yeah.
Reportedly, there were so many roaches in the dressing room that teams would have to change in the hotel before they got to the arena.
Ew.
But
God damn it.
Unconscionable, John.
Yeah.
but they did revolutionize cheerleading.
Oh,
Um,
talk about it, Matt.
this is from the broadcaster Van Vance.
Van Vance joining you here.
Live from the locker room, covered in cockroaches. Van Vance.
The infestation is palpable.
Well, I'll get to Van Vance in a second. But Gene Littles, who I think was one of the owners, or one of the other team owners, he said this. He said, "No matter what you say about the Floridians, they had the greatest cheerleaders in the world. They're a big league all the way. Their looks, their dance routines, their outfits, they got more attention than the team, and that was how it should have been, considering the kind of teams they had down there." Van Vance said, "The ball girls were great looking. I really mean it. They had long, tan legs, super figures, all packed in those bikinis. During one game, perhaps the best-looking one came up to me and sat right in my lap while I was broadcasting the game. I just kept doing the game, and the girl turned to someone at the press table and said, 'I don't get it. This guy just talks and talks, but he won't talk to me.'"
And she's up with her big Cuban ass.
No, they were all. I think they were all white, but
Dude, there's white Cubans.
but they would
They all moved to Florida.
Yeah.
That's true. They would stand under the basket during like free throws. Try
And
to
flash their ass.
They would be dancing. They'd be dancing during the game or at halftime, and they always wore bikinis. They were the ball girls too. So they would
trans.
yeah.
Yeah.
This is from the
Ball girls, check them out, bro. It's Florida, baby. It's Miami. We're open minded over here.
Let's shake them up. Let's roll the dice, ball girls.
Slip a sack outside.
This is from the Floridians team program. There's little question that the Floridians boast the 5 prettiest ball boys in all of basketballdom.
Another ball boys.
Yeah.
And these boys are playing CeeLo with them sacks.
Shake 'em up, shake 'em up, shake 'em up, shake 'em.
The quintet was chosen in a bikini contest held last August. All 5 girls are highly talented. For instance, 2 of the girls, Sandy and Cindy Acker, are twins and majorettes in Norland High School.
Oh my God. They're high schoolers?
Yeah.
Matt.
No,
That's not what he did.
no, that's the wrong inflection.
That's you. That's fucking you.
They weren't all high school
Oh,
girls.
man, they flew all the way from Epstein Island.
Oh my God.
They weren't all high school girls. For instance,
Some of them were in middle school.
V. Lynn sings and dances professionally and already owns a pilot's license. Pinky White is a student at Miami Central High School and aspires to become an actress. Janie Orman, a student at Miami-Dade North, is the outdoor type. She likes to ride horses, sail, and play tennis.
Oh, God.
If the innovation catches on, there's a likelihood that spectators will attend ABA contests as much to appreciate feminine pulchritude
Pulchritude?
as good basketball.
That is a word we learned on the show.
yeah.
Pulchritude.
Just say beauty.
Fecundity.
I think it's buxomness.
Yeah, it's wet pussitude.
Oh Jesus.
That's what it means.
Okay, well, you're not.
Oh, Aaron, we got pictures. You're gonna fucking spew.
Is this legal, porno?
Yeah, it is ABA porno.
Oh.
And again, all of these pictures will be on the page.
Very 70s.
Yeah.
Yeah, Coke bellies,
They're looking good.
flat asses, wide hips,
Coloring that.
supple, perky breasts.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Thank you for.
Some of them
bringing
are
that
still
up.
in high school.
Well, listen,
I won't tell
there's more hormones in the food back then.
What?
I don't think that's true.
Okay, I don't know how to. Well,
Rocking a very, very 70s look. Loving it. Looks great.
Yeah, and they look very happy.
they do. Yeah, they're having a great time.
Yeah, the
And they're
pill
probably
just got
being
released.
paid. Probably.
The pill just came out.
Yeah.
Coke's good. Music's good. Movies good.
Yeah.
Cars good.
So that was the biggest draw of the Miami team. Now in Indiana, so the Pacers.
And that is still the case today.
Yeah. The Pacers were considered the Boston Celtics of the ABA. They were one of the few like real legitimate teams. And always had big attendance, always had a good team. They signed guys like Mel Daniels, who was a regular, a very great player in the ABA and for a couple years in the NBA. And I think a guy named Roger Brown. And I think the first year they made it to the finals, and I can't. I think I can't remember. Anyway, but they had they were like, the team was like had a family nature to them. They all loved being in Indiana and playing with each other.
Right.
One of their big signings early was this guy named Bob Nettolicky, and he had he was a rich kid. He had like a cougar or a bobcat or something. He was just he opened up a bar in Indianapolis called Netto's, and after all the games, all the players would go there and drink and with the fans.
Rip heaters.
Yeah, definitely rip heaters. But they were also a team that wanted to win. You know, not every team cared about winning as much as owning a team.
Right. Yeah. They want to get the bear fights and shit.
Yeah. They're like
exactly. Yeah.
The Indians from Major League.
Yeah.
But in their I think it was their first season, their lead center was injured, and so they needed a tall guy. And so someone told him about this guy.
Rest in peace to Kembe Mutombo.
Yes, very much so. Someone told him about this guy named Reggie Harding, and Dick Tinkham says Reggie Harding was the biggest guy I've ever seen. Most of our guys were 6'8" or under. Only one or two guys in the league were really 7 foot. Getting off the plane, he just looked awful. If he could run an obstacle course at Paris Island. He came off the plane. He was wearing like a big a coat that was too small for him. He carried his shoes over his shoulder, tied together. He just looked like pretty rugged, and he just looked awful.
Just looked awful.
He shows up, and they're having a meal with him, and Reggie says they're talking to him. And he's not paying attention. And Reggie just says, "When you get to the money, let me know."
When you get to what?
When you get to the money, let me know.
Oh my God! Yeah, good for him.
And half the season is over. So they said, we're going to give you $10,000 for the rest of the year. And Reggie says, Mom, man, if you wanted to buy a Cadillac, would you just take enough money to buy a Chevy? And he said, I got a plane back to Detroit. I mean, I'm just going to get on it if you're not going to give me the money. So they said, Reggie, take this pen, write down what you want for the rest of the year. Reggie writes down $15,000. And so they go, okay, well, we have 30 games left. 20 in the playoffs. That's 50 games. We'll pay you $300 a game, and that
$15,000.
There's $15,000, and so he signed it. Now, of course,
he's like, I only want 1,000.
Best I can do.
The team wore suits and ties on the road. Reggie didn't want to do that, so he kept getting. They wouldn't play him when he didn't do that.
Wow, that's some 2008 Daniel Stern shit.
And but all the people who had to tell him these rules were also scared of him.
Yeah.
So like it
100
was
feet tall.
Yeah. He was late to team flights. One time he said he had to leave the team to go to his daughter's funeral. He didn't have a daughter.
Oh my God.
One of the players said that he had a really bad game. He was 1 for 14 during the game, and he said it was because he roomed with Reggie. And they said, "Well, what the fuck are you talking about?" He said. This guy's nickname was Tweety Bird, who roomed with Reggie, and he said, it was midnight and I was in bed and the lights were out and I heard Reggie come in. I heard him going around the room. It was still dark. Then I heard him come close to me. He turned on the light and there was Reggie standing by my bed holding a gun to my head. And he said, Tweety Bird, I hear you hate black guys.
Wait, Tweety was white?
Yeah.
I've never met a white guy named Tweety Bird. That's crazy.
And so Tweety said, no. And
I love black guys.
And he kept talking to Reggie, and he finally got Reggie to hand him the gun. And when Reggie did, this guy, Tweety Bird, took all the bullets out of the gun, and he said, let's go to bed now.
He said, just like a black guy.
He turned out the lights, and then he hears Reggie getting up, moving around the room. He turns back the lights, and Reggie's got the gun again, pointing at him. And Reggie says,
oh, my God.
You didn't think I only had 6 shells, did you?
Oh, my God.
Jesus.
And so this guy, he said he grabbed his clothes, and he went and he slept in the lobby. And that's why he was 1 for 14 that day.
Shit. Also kind of valid if you have to sleep with a white guy that you think,
Sure.
hates black guys. So you're like,
So you got to put a gun to his head a couple times a night?
yeah.
Just to make sure.
Yeah. It's the white guy's fault you didn't get any sleep.
In a way.
It's the white man's fault.
Right, yeah.
It's not that particular
not
white guy.
Tweety- not
It's
Tweety.
Not Tweety.
No.
Tweety just thought he taught putty tat.
Yeah.
So
That's it.
So Reggie was suspended for the whole playoffs, and he claimed that he was still owed $4,000. And after they lost the playoffs, Reggie did a television interview where he said they would have won if he'd played, and he also said, in a quote, "And if I had a gun, I'd shoot the owner."
You do have a gun.
Yeah.
And so
And limitless bullets,
and
apparently.
the general manager said, "Well, I knew he had a gun."
Yeah.
So
How did Reggie play, though, when he did play?
they don't say because it doesn't seem like he played that much.
Yeah.
And
But he must have been an asset to
He was
get that
too
much
busy
money.
reloading.
No, they were desperate for a big guy, but it just
Yeah.
wasn't worth the trouble, and they still made the finals. But after the season, Reggie disappeared. He never played pro ball again. He was later shot in Detroit, and the general manager that he threatened, he said he went to his funeral, and he was one of the few white guys there.
Damn.
But there's still, even that, there's a little bit of a camaraderie. Like, it's like he's crazy. But he's not a bad guy.
Yeah. I mean, there's got to be camaraderie with this whole thing because they're so fucking outside the box.
Yeah. Indiana, they fired their coach after the first season, and he was really bummed out about it. But they didn't announce it until after the team got back into town, and he said he was at his house after he heard the news. After the news was released, and the entire team showed up in his driveway and apologized to him for getting him fired.
Damn.
Because that's how close they were.
They got
Indiana.
him fired?
Well, no, because they just, because they didn't win.
Right. Yeah.
Indiana replaced that coach with a guy named Slick Leonard.
Good guy.
Slick Leonard was he was huge for these players. He would tell them stories about how he grew up, and one of his jobs was to pick up the coal that fell off the coal cars, so his family could light a fire that day.
Yeah.
He would cook. He would
Real bullshit.
he would get in fights with the refs. One time he threw an entire ball rack at a ref because he was upset with the call.
One ball by each,
No, the entire rack, the entire metal rack.
full of balls.
Yeah, he got thrown out.
I used to pick up the corn-eyed brown trout.
From my daddy's tank.
Their rich star Bob Nettolicky said that
I was swapping at him like grizzlies and salmon in a stream.
he said that Slick Leonard accused him of not hustling, and Nettolicky said oh come on, and they got in a shouting match. And during halftime, Nettolicky went and he was sitting on the toilet in the bathroom, and they were playing at a hockey arena. And somehow Slick Leonard found a hockey stick and started beating on the door of the bathroom stall, saying, "Where the hell are you? I'm going to kick your ass when you come out." And Nettolicky says, "I'm in here." So Slick Leonard then just smashed the stick against the stall door until it broke in 2 million pieces. Then he was okay.
Jesus.
He just calmed down by then. And the whole team just laughed about it.
Yeah, well, it is funny.
Yeah.
There's no denying it's funny.
And the second season, he would also do things like he would tell the guys look, you guys are all amazing athletes. You guys got great limbs, and he would take them to see crippled kids and go look,
Check it out.
you should be happy with what you got. Look at and they would bring him and they'd do charity stuff.
You guys all got great limbs. All right. You don't know how good you have it.
But no
He's
teams
right.
are doing charity stuff like
Yeah.
that. He was making them be a part of the community too. And in the second season, they
Fucking
made
cripples play better than you guys. What's your excuse?
the finals again, and they were down 3 in the playoffs. They were down 3-1 in the first round to Kentucky, and the players all knew he'd be pissed. But he came in, and he said to the guys, he said, "Look, basketball's not that big of a deal. I just want you guys to go out there and give everything you got."
Yeah.
And it completely fucked with their brain. They were like, "Holy shit!"
Fuck.
And then they went out and they came back and won, and then they went into the championship and won the championship.
Yeah, that's that.
kid.
That's that mindset of having a job versus having an opportunity,
Mm-hmm.
and that's a really powerful motivator.
Yes.
And also I'm gonna say here without spoiling anything for the end, but there were in the ABA different teams that specifically shone.
Yeah,
and Indiana
and guys, different guys. Yeah,
Indiana was definitely a thing, like you said, but also the culture there was different, and even the thing you saying about them being proud to be Indiana people, that's the thing I kind of have a problem with like the free agent kind of thing in sports, because it's like whoever has the money can buy the team sort of thing.
Yeah.
Where there is a thing where like I like.
Yeah. What are you rooting for? A uniform?
Right. Yeah.
Sure.
And that's the thing I do like about when it comes to like the European Championships in soccer or the World Cup or whatever, where you go like, this is just where you're from. That's the only reason you're playing for this team. And I think that makes the competition much more valid to me as a viewer versus what company sells the most hats to therefore be able to buy the most players.
Yeah,
Sure.
the most cynical part of me goes, neither of it's cool, because one goes, which patch of dirt did your mom shit you out on and what race are you? Versus who pays for you.
Sure.
That's valid.
So neither one, the most cynical version of that is neither one is cool. One is arbitrary lines in the sand. The other is who's paying you more.
Yes.
And you're just either rooting for a genealogy or you're rooting for a paycheck.
Right. But
I agree. I tend to agree with what.
Also insofar as that, like let's say, I'm sorry, Matt.
No.
But this is the thing where where you choose to have your citizenship as a rich person also can be a benefit and a drawback.
Yeah.
So if your citizenship is
Monaco's not winning a lot of Olympic titles.
exactly,
Sure.
exactly. So it's a thing like that. So like, and obviously America is a huge hodgepodge of whatever. So it's not so much like, oh, Argentina is winning. You know what I'm saying? But also, you can have the benefit of people that want to live where they live.
Yeah.
And that is maybe good, maybe bad, but it does make the competition kind of, I think, a little bit more valid.
I buy it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why the Olympics are compelling.
Right.
Mhm.
Exactly.
Like, Argentina's going to win a lot of soccer around the world.
Right.
And it's not a function of money put into it. It's not a function of the corporate. It's just culture and their desire.
Right.
Fucking competitive trampolining. China's going to win.
Mhm.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. It is definitely more interesting for Argentina, for the United States especially, to be bad at soccer. I almost never want them to be good at it because it's
Right.
one less
But
thing.
we've talked about like several times where Manchester United with their winning team.
Yeah.
David Beckham is the captain of England, but he's not even the captain on his own Manchester United team. It's fucking Roy Keane. So it really kind of boils it down to very specific lines that are not based on money. And that's why I feel like those kinds of divisions in sports are more compelling and interesting.
Yeah, I agree.
Because it's not buying a trophy.
But there really is a thing. Slick Leonard would tell the NA team that when you are playing for a championship, the whole thing there, I think he's called it like a tunnel of love, because you go on this journey with these guys,
Right.
and you go through the whole
You
season.
get fingered in the dark.
Yeah, and the mental and physical things you go through to survive long enough. When you play for a championship, that means you've played the most games of any other team.
Right.
And you're worn out, but you have to overcome this mental thing, which is not letting your physical weakness at this point, your lack of endurance, stop you from being the best you can be.
Right.
And the guys that win, and even the guys that lose, but especially the guys that win, there's always some sort of
Innate desire.
Well, there's always some sort of camaraderie that when you see those guys later, you always have that.
Right.
And that is a real big part of making a team.
Yeah, it's
We went through
I
it.
can't believe we did that.
Yeah. And a lot of these Indiana guys too would also, when they retired, they would stay in Indianapolis.
Yeah.
So the city did have a big thing about that.
Plus wide open streets, flats, good suburban.
Go on. Yeah, keep selling it.
The brief note here: the New York Nets, after that second season, they moved to the Long Island Garden. It averaged 58 degrees in the building in winter. The toilets didn't work. There was no hot water in the showers.
Jesus
If
Christ.
the circus left town, the parking lot was full of elephant shit.
Hey.
My God.
They would eventually move into the Nassau Coliseum, where they would play, because I believe their owner also became owner of the New York Islanders.
Ah.
But-
Still full of elephant shit.
Let's briefly talk about how the ABA did business. Now, there's a constant battle between them and the NBA to get players, especially now that they're a pretty legitimate league, and players are going, holy shit. After only a couple of years, the NBA started raising their pay because they realized
They had to.
they were going to lose more players. And so in order to stay ahead of the NBA, the ABA created a thing called what they called the Dolgolf Plan. And that was named after one of the owners or the founders of the... And what it was basically deferred money. So you could claim that you signed a guy for $1.4 million, but really you gave him a $50,000 signing bonus, $20,000 a year for 4 years, and then like $1 million,
On
like $10,000 a year for 20 years.
like Shohei
Right.
Ohtani.
Yeah. And so that was one of the ways they could make really big headlines in the newspaper saying we signed a guy for $1.4 million. They also did a thing, what they called the hardship case. Now, so the NCAA did not want them to sign guys who were playing in college. And they were a lot of ABA teams were banned from even being on campuses
Right.
because the NBA and NCAA were like, oh, they're stealing our players who are making us money and paying them money.
Right.
So we can't have them stealing from us. And so the ABA created this thing where the entire league would put money together for one team to sign a player. It was called a hardship case. And the first one was a guy named Spencer Haywood. It was later used for a guy named Moses Malone. But these,
Moses Malone drafted out of high school.
Exactly. And so one of the things that they went to Moses Malone's house, and like all of these colleges were trying to basically like break into his house to talk to him.
Yeah.
They would sneak through sneak through the yard.
Yeah. He was like the first LeBron James.
Moses Malone,
God.
his house was the only house on the street that had an air conditioner because some college illegally
Paid for it.
gave him that.
Wow.
And so the ABA said, we got to get these guys, so let's pool our money so one team can get them. Because we have to
Because
make
it'll
the...
be good for the league.
Exactly.
Right.
And so even when they would do drafts, they would say like, okay, well, it would be better for New York if they got this guy. Because
Right.
he went to college there.
Yeah.
And so they would start working together and do those things.
But Moses was I think the first guy to be drafted out of high school.
Yes.
Crazy.
In what, 1970?
Yeah, something around there. Yeah. And also using this, they almost, I think it was like 70, 71, they almost got Lou Alcindor, eventually Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. They almost signed him.
Yeah.
They found that they heard that he was an incredibly loyal guy.
Yeah.
And if he said yes to you, that was it.
Wow.
And they heard that the NBA was going to give him, let's say, like $30,000. And so they put together a check of $50,000.
Damn.
And they gave it to George Mikan, and they said, when you meet with him, just give him this and say, that's it, and he'll sign with us.
But who did he meet with first?
Well, he met with George Mikan, and Mikan comes out of the meeting and says, well, no, I offered him $20,000 because I didn't want to mess up the deal. I wanted him to come back with another offer. And then the next day, Milwaukee offered him like $30,000 and
Oh, this was after he was at UCLA.
yeah.
Yeah, okay, I understand.
So they drafted him, and they almost got him, but they didn't because Mikan fucked that deal up.
Yeah.
And so then they said, Mikan, you're done.
Lou Alcindor, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was such a good guy that negotiating wasn't on his radar.
Right.
Yeah.
It was
He
you
took
give me an
them at their
offer.
word, and then he took the Bucks at their word.
Yeah. And so he signed for
Smart.
Milwaukee, and that was that.
And they went on to be the NBA's leading scorer for
And one of their greatest players.
But colleges also have
and a
to,
star of Airplane.
colleges have to be very ethical about their kind of thing. I know they're not necessarily. That's a point of big contention.
But there's rules about being an amateur.
Right. But for the ABA or the NBA, like they can kind of do whatever. They're private enterprise.
But what's your point?
I'm saying like they can probably lure in more overt ways than colleges can.
Right. But I think he had already been playing at UCLA.
Right.
And he'd played his
he was
4
going to
years.
graduate.
He was going to graduate anyways, and so he was going to go pro no matter what.
Yes, he was the best player in college basketball at that time.
Yeah.
But Lenny Wilkins, who I believe is a Hall of Famer,
And a head coach.
and he's
as a player and a coach.
yeah. And he said this. I mean, and this is basically this is one of the most important things. He said the ABA was the greatest thing that happened to the players. No one in the NBA objected when a player jumped to the ABA. The guy was just making a good deal for himself and is also forcing the NBA to pay us more to keep us. For once, we had leverage. Because in the early years of the league, getting $5,000 raise after being an all-star was a real struggle. So if a guy jumped, we'd say, good for him. Now everybody will benefit.
Yes, it's so true. It really is how competition is good, that players or owners are willing to be like, I'll take less so I can get more later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And not everybody needs to have a monopoly and hoard this wealth against everybody. And especially something as simple as the refs, like you said.
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
so interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that was a real coup. Everybody was like, the NBA never saw that coming.
Yeah.
Season 4, 1970-71, brought the ABA's biggest lady man in, Wendell Ladner.
Oh, that old poon hound.
They said he was the only guy who get the number of every stewardess before he exited the plane. 6'4", 220 when he was in shape with a nice thick Burt Reynolds mustache. He was such a hit with the ladies that in Kentucky, that we played for, that the team made a beefcake poster of him.
Oh, let's see it. Oh, yeah, I think you got a Lou Alcindor picture.
Major
right
beefcake.
Now. Yep, that is a Burt Reynolds. Ugh.
Yeah,
It says, best wishes, Wendell Ladner.
Oh, it kind of looks like Burt wishes.
But this dude's 6'4", 220. He had ladies over him all of the time.
This guy looks like shit.
Well, it
looks like Will Ferrell in semi-pro.
It's 1970-71. And this guy
looks good.
When you have only forearm hair, one of those guys.
Yeah.
But he's a beefcake.
He is.
Yeah, okay.
He's very handsome. Come on, give it to him.
And he was a good player too. His big thing, like he was for his height, he could outmuscle anybody.
He was like, he was like
Barkley-esque.
Charles Barkley.
Yeah.
That's exactly right.
Yeah, that's
I was thinking about Charles Barkley.
Thinking about Charles
But also, the ladies loved him. He brought a lot of them in, and he could play, and he could fight, and he could make some shots. He would be traded to the Nets when Julius Erving was there. In order to protect him. No, we'll get to that. But he was also an idiot.
I could tell.
One of the announcers was talking to Coach Babe McCarthy and said, it seems Wendell doesn't know the meaning of the word fear. And McCarthy replied, that's right. Of course, he doesn't know the meaning of many other words, too.
Oh, God.
Once on a flight to Washington, D.C.
Just like Charles Barkley.
Yeah. Once on a flight to Washington, D.C., Ladner saw the Washington Monument, and he said, I bet that's the Washington Post.
Oh, yeah.
That's funny.
That is good.
I mean, it basically is.
He was, there's a couple stories.
I love how you just back up idiotic things. You're like,
it is a Washington Post.
He would put, at halftime, he would put a hairspray in.
Cool. Very cool.
That's
cool.
One time he went to see a doctor and said he had discomfort in his groin area.
Oh, no.
And the doctor said, it looks like you've been having sex too much. And Wendell said, you think so? And the doctor said, how many times a day do you have sex? And Wendell said, I don't know, 3 or 4 times. Doctor said, Wendell, that's too much. And Wendell said, well, it's never with the same girl.
That's what I mean by too much.
One other time, he played in Kentucky, remember? And he got a knock on his door, and a woman showed up, and she said, hey, I need a cup of sugar. And he said, well, I don't have any sugar. And she said, I drove all the way from Indianapolis for some sugar. You going to let me in or not?
By sugar, I mean cum.
Oh, my God. You don't just say it so bluntly.
But he
doesn't know the words of sugar.
Yeah, can't spell it.
He was incredibly well liked.
3 letters.
And him and Julius would become fast friends.
Oh.
He died quite young in a plane crash after the ABA folded.
The pilot.
And Julius was one of the only black guys at his wedding.
Damn.
So anyway,
Well, he had a quota. He could only. allow one.
Why are you saying that?
Because look at him.
No, he looks like a nice man.
He looks like a dolt.
He was adult, but he's a sweet man.
I love sweet dolts.
Yes.
As
You are
evidenced
one.
By, my friends
Yeah.
here.
Thank you.
My sweet dolts.
So that fourth season started with the LA Stars becoming the Utah Stars. It ended with them winning the championship, beating Kentucky in the finals. The Washington Capitals became the Virginia Squires. New Orleans moved to Memphis. I think they became the Memphis Pros. The NBA owners voted 13-4 to work on a merger, but they were stopped by the Oscar Robertson suit, which the NBA Players Association brought against the merger, saying that the merger would violate antitrust laws.
Now, why was it called the Oscar Robertson suit?
Because he was led by Oscar Robertson.
And so Oscar Robertson, one of the greatest players of all time, first player to average a triple-double.
Yeah.
Another guy drafted out of high school.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think he averaged a triple-double in his rookie season. What was the
by the merger happening without fixing any sort of free agency, it would allow the NBA to get around having players move when their contract was up.
So it was a player-centric. The Oscar Robertson rule in its inception was pro-player.
Yes, it was very much like the NBA, the Major League Baseball,
Right.
getting rid of the establishing free agents.
So you're saying the merger with the ABA and the NBA?
Yes. So the NBA voted to merge, and the NBA Players Association.
So actually, this is bad for players.
Yes.
This is what the Oscar Robertson rule was.
Yes. And so this
That makes sense.
is season 4 of 1970-71.
Yeah.
And so the NBA was already going, and it's probably going to be better for us, but the players are going, it wouldn't be better for us.
Do you think that's
Very-
true?
Yes.
It was, yeah.
Because in the ABA, they had that freedom. They could go, they could sign a contract, play it out, go wherever they wanted. They could negotiate. They could play teams against each other. You couldn't do that in the NBA.
And then with the merger, that rule, that freedom would be lost.
Yes.
So Robinson was on the side of the ABA.
He was on the side of the players.
The players. The NBA
Right.
players, yeah. Season 4, one of the refs died of a heart attack in the first quarter of a game.
Because he realized he lost the fucking bet.
Yeah. Now there were plenty of fighters in the ABA. The book Loose Balls focuses specifically on 2 guys. These guys. It's just that these guys are the most feared fighters in the ABA.
Good guys.
Is one of them Kermit Washington?
No. He was in the NBA when he
Beat the shit out of
Rudy
Tomjanovich.
Tomjanovich. Yeah. In the ABA is Warren Jabali. That he later take Jabali. He became a Muslim. And John Brisker. John Brisker, his team would, one of their promotions was Fight Night. And the poster was John Brisker with his dukes up.
Yeah.
Good
Not
Lord.
shooting
No.
a three-pointer, not dunking it, not doing layup lines.
But also they weren't bad players. Jabali played for 7 seasons. He averaged 17 points. Brisker averaged 26 points and 9 rebounds.
Great stats.
But they scared not just their opponents, but their teammates and their coaches.
He was like Ron Artest.
Wow.
Jabali once stomped on an opponent during a game.
No.
Yes.
Good God.
During one game, Brisker was late coming out for the second half because he got in a fight with a teammate in the locker room.
At least Allen Iverson stepped over Tyronn Lue.
That's right. In Pittsburgh at a preseason camp, the team brought in an NFL player to rough up Brisker. Well, it got really heated quickly, and the NFL guy said, "Fuck this, I'm going to get my gun." So Brisker said, "Fuck that, I'm going to get my gun." And the coach had to call the practice off so no one...
So they could gunfight in the parking lot.
I'll execute every last motherfucking one of ya.
One coach on an opposing team, he said, "I'll pay anybody $500 who could clock Brisker." Well, one guy who didn't play that much said, "Coach, put me in." As soon as the ball went up for the opening tip, he ran over and punched Brisker in the chin and knocked him out.
And that was Pistol Pete Maravich.
One time in Kentucky, a black rookie showed up and he was wearing cotton underwear. Jabali walked over, ripped the underwear right off him and said, "Don't you know our ancestors had to pick that cotton?"
Oh my
How did he see his underwear?
Well, because
why
it's,
was
a
he
locker,
wearing
it's, a,
silk
it's a
ones?
locker room.
Oh, okay.
I mean, listen. Odds are any guy's wearing cotton undies.
Yeah, what the fuck are you supposed to wear?
Well, Jabali said, "Get yourself some slick underwear." Slick drawers, he said. Slick drawers.
You wear silk when you play on the floor,
That's
my
right.
team.
Yeah.
Well, they all wear jock straps, but
Yeah, right, dude. When was the last time a player wore a jockstrap that wasn't at the fucking Eagle in Silver Lake? Wink, wink, wink. John, wink, wink.
eventually, Jabali, even though he was like second on one of his teams in scoring, he was released and no other team signed him just because everyone was like, we can't. Brisker, he would. Jabali would then later play in the NBA. Then he got addicted to drugs.
Oh.
One day he'd score 40. The next game he wouldn't show up. Brisker was.
One day he scored 40. The next day he scored a dime bag,
Yeah, and that's nice.
which is pretty good.
Brisker was last heard of in 1978 when he his last known contact was telling his girlfriend he was in Uganda, allegedly to start an import-export business.
Oh, what was he importing and exporting?
Well, no one knows what happened to him, but some speculate he was killed fighting for Idi Amin.
Damn.
The last king of Scotland?
Wow.
Yeah.
What a trip.
Yeah. In 1971, the NBA and ABA started playing exhibition games against each other. They played 20. The ABA won 8.
Not bad.
Okay.
Yeah.
Bad. For a bunch of brawlers.
At the end of the fifth ABA season, 1971-72, the Indiana Pacers beat the New Jersey Nets in the finals. After 5 seasons, the worst original team, was the Carolina Cougars. They hadn't had a winning season. One of their coaches quit basketball forever and joined a college writing program.
It's devastating.
Something to think about. At the end of the 5th season, they did sign Joe Caldwell from the NBA's Atlanta Hawks. But in his contract, they added a clause of $600 monthly pension to be paid out at age 55 and multiplied by the number of years he played pro basketball. Well, he ended up playing 11 seasons, and he was owed $6,600 a month. Carolina took him to court claiming it was a typo. They did not win, much like they didn't win on the court.
Good for you, Caldwell.
Uh,
Smart.
Joe is reported to have a bit of a mood, and anytime he was really upset, he'd just walk out of the arena and follow the train tracks 7 miles home to his house.
Well,
Jesus
didn't have smart-
Christ.
didn't have
7
smart-
miles?
Didn't have smart.
Yeah, he was in a mood.
I bet his mood was worked out by the time he got back.
I bet it was.
Well, he didn't
worked
come
out
back.
With that 6,000.
Well, I mean, by the time he got home,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, probably figured out his
he
emotions.
just needed to cool off.
They would eventually, they got Larry Brown and Doug Moe to coach them. Larry was this young guy, he set the record for most assists in the ABA, this short guy, and he learned to coach while he was at North Carolina a little bit, and then he became a very a successful coach in the ABA. One of the things he led the league in was style.
Uh-oh.
He liked to wear overalls
Oh,
as a
Oh,
coach.
yeah.
that's embarrassing.
Oh, my God.
Looks like Cotton Eye Joe.
Yeah. Hey, it was here's the thing. The ABA had style.
They sure did.
Oh, yeah.
By the time the 70s hits, these guys had big afros.
Yeah.
They wore cool clothes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a very cool time. Here, I'll show you
High
some.
socks.
Yeah.
They were rocking the Adidas.
Also, a thing they play up very much in semi-pro.
I mean, this is Daryl Hillman, who's reported to have the biggest afro in the ABA.
Dude, that's,
Hell yeah.
that's damn near Dr. J level.
He's the one that gave Dr. J tips on how to get his afro
You got to
big.
pick it out.
Really?
Yeah. Let's see. Here's another guy. I forget Jackson.
Uh-huh.
Big ass afro.
Yeah.
Great chin hair too.
Yeah.
Solid Egyptian pharaoh like.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. You could fucking put your drink on that thing.
This is from the Floridians basketball magazine. Look at that outfit.
That's Greg Edwards.
That's
man.
Larry Jones. He looks fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is also Larry Jones dressed up before a game. Great outfits.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They led the basketball
fucking-
world
the
in style.
What are those called? Like the Kangol style hats with the poof on top.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The what do you the honey bear? What was
Honey pot?
from Starsky and Hutch?
Oh, is it honey bear? Yeah, honey bear.
Oh gosh, I don't know. I'm white
Yeah.
and under 60.
Here's Julius.
There he is.
So
There's the goat.
So this is the time to talk about Dr. J.
Dr. Julius Irving, Matt.
Now, he wasn't known as Dr. J then, but in the 5th ABA season, one of the most important thing they ever did, and one of the best things that happened in basketball history, was that the Virginia Squires signed Julius Irving. Now, Julius played for this college in Massachusetts called UMass. It was in Amherst, Massachusetts. And
wow.
it's right where I grew up. My dad got to see him play. And
College?
yeah.
Wow.
And nobody knew anything about this guy. It was always just UMass has this guy, and he's just leaping out of the building.
Street legend.
No one knew what to expect. There was no real tape. It was just word of mouth. This guy is incredible. Here's one of my favorite pictures of him. Here's him getting a rebound. And you see this guy. This guy is standing over here at the foul line, just with arms on his hips, going, "What?" No, but he's going, "Jesus fucking Christ! I can't."
Look at the bottom of Dr. J's feet, and how much higher they are than the next guy next to him's knees.
Yeah.
Who's on the ground?
Yeah,
he's 40 inches above the ground.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, it's straight up standing on a desk level.
he was doing things in college that no one had ever seen before. And in college you couldn't dunk. You weren't allowed to dunk. It was very much
the rules,
because it was like
because guys like Lou Alcindor would, if they could dunk, him and Bill Walton.
It seems very racist. I feel like.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's I don't know if that's why the rule was in place. I think the rule might have been in place before they even let black people play with white people.
Well,
I think there was
discuss the rule.
The rule is you're not
there were
allowed.
no dunks allowed.
You can take the ball and drop it into the hoop, but you cannot slam it into the hoop.
I think it was I think it was kind of like how in baseball, like home runs were seen as inelegant.
But what does inelegance mean?
Barbarism,
Showing,
animalist,
showy.
But what? In Babe Ruth's time, everybody fucking loved home runs.
He was the guy who made it popular, dude.
I know, but what they didn't like later was bat flipping, which was obviously racist.
Or I guess.
Yeah, no, because they always say they're not playing the game the right way.
No,
What is the right
it's like
way?
You're not doing it in a gentlemanly, but hitting a ball out of the park is.
It's not. Black players didn't have a monopoly on hitting home runs.
No, they weren't allowed in the time of Babe Ruth.
Exactly.
Right.
So that's my
But
point.
What I'm saying is, then you can't make it a barbaric thing. It's clearly it's like a thing where you go like, no, that's the point of the game. And that is the good thing about sport, is that it gets away from a lot of racist stuff where you go like, what is the point of the game?
Right.
And you go like,
to win and sell tickets.
Exactly.
I 100% agree. I don't know the history of the rule, Matt and John, so I can't speak to the racist motivations behind it.
The way you get the ball in the net is not in the rule book. Whether you're slamming it, politely asking.
Well, I think it was. At the time. That's the thing, is that I think it was.
You think there was rules?
It clearly was. It was in the rules.
Or was it retroactive once people started slamming balls and you know what I'm saying?
No. I think it was just like the ball goes in the net without you touching the rim.
Yeah.
Again, I don't know.
Right.
So it's very, very possible that. I mean, there's also people that say that fucking the NBA allowed the 3-point line in to give white guys a chance.
Right.
Which
there are people that say that too, even though the ABA was the one that had the 3-point line. So you can play that both ways.
It was just to make basketball more exciting. But
it does make it more exciting.
It does.
But back to Julius. When he played for UMass, he averaged 27 points and 19 rebounds.
In college?
Yeah.
Jesus fuck.
But there's stories of him playing, I believe it was Marquette with Al McGuire. Al McGuire is an amazing character. He had multiple players who were attracted by the ABA. And he would tell all of them, he would say, look, your parents asked me to take care of you. The best thing for you would be to take that money.
With the NBA.
With the ABA.
Because they were offering.
Yeah, and he was going like, "Look, your parents said I'm here to make the best decisions for you. Now you could play for me, and that'd be great. You could play another 2 years of college, or you could take that money because I know that'd be good for you." Al McGuire is this really
because at that point the rules had changed.
Well, the NCAA just didn't want to go into the legal arbitration about it. But Al McGuire, there's a game where his team is playing UMass and they're down 12-0 in the first 2 minutes, and Julius scores the first 8 points, and he's going, "Who the fuck is that guy?" And someone says, "Oh, that's Julius," and he goes, "Who the fuck is Julius?" No one knew who this. Even other coaches didn't know who this guy was.
It's so crazy that like, I don't mean to divert from Julius again, but because he's gonna get all the attention he deserves. It went from you had to play college 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
Then it went to, we'll draft you out of high school. And then after that big boom, after Kevin Garnett, Kobe, and LeBron, it was like, oh no, you got to play at least like 2 years again.
Right.
They changed that rule like after there was just like a generation of talent that went straight to the NBA, and the NCAA was like, no. You got to give us 2 years. Or you got to play in Europe for 2 years. Like the collusion between the leagues and the colleges is so disgusting.
It's really bullshit.
Yeah.
Now, so no one knew how good he was or how good he could be, but the gossip was strong. So Virginia bought his rights for $10,000.
Virginia, what?
The Squires.
Oh, the illustrious Squires.
They bought his rights for $10,000. Their owner signed him for $500,000 for 4 years, $75,000 in cash, $50,000 to be paid over 7 years. During their first meeting, everybody marveled at the length of his fingers and his huge afro. His hands measured 12 inches long from the palm to the end of the fingers, 11 inches wide. He basically had a square foot for a hand.
Good Lord.
At his first tryout, he jumped over a guy. Then a ball hit a rim and bounced up to the top of the backboard. A bunch of guys jumped for it, and out of them, he's the only one that kept rising. He grabbed the ball and he slammed it home. All of the other players stopped playing and just stared at him.
Wow.
They all killed themselves out of desperation.
And the coaches decided he can't play the rest of the tryout because someone might hurt him.
Yeah.
We can't let that happen.
He's already won.
Every time he made a new dunk, one player, Willie Sojourner, would say, "There's the doctor digging into his bag again." And that's how he got his name, Dr. J.
Wow.
And he would say he loved it because it meant that any kid, they didn't know how to spell Julius Erving, but they could all spell Dr. J.
Yeah.
And in his first game on a fast break, he dunked on 7'2" Artis Gilmore, who was a very great defender. Just dunked right on him. During warm-ups, he would throw the ball. One time, he threw the ball off the backboard and dunked it. A teammate asked him how he came up with that, and Irving said that he had a dream about it the night before.
Damn.
And the teammate was like, "This dude dreams about dunking." And the teammate also said, "I will never get behind him in line in warm-ups because everybody raves at him dunking. I can't be the guy who goes after him."
Yeah. I can barely grab the rim.
One team had a rule that when they were playing at home and Irving was on the visiting team, he wasn't allowed to make a dunk on a fast break because then the whole crowd would start rooting for him.
So they would just foul him
against their home. Yeah, against their home. The crowd would start rooting against their own team.
Yeah. So they would they would hit him.
Yeah, they would just stop him. Everybody has stories about stuff he did in his rookie year. One of them is this. This is from George Irvin. He said, "And Julius's rookie."
George Irving,
not George Gervin.
Not George Gervin.
He'll
not the Iceman.
He'll come up a little bit later.
He was another ABA guy.
Yes. One of the guys says, "We were playing Indiana. He drove the baseline on the right side and went up. All of a sudden, one guy went in for a block. Julius just sort of brought the ball back and floated past him. He floated under the basket. He saw that another guy came in for a block. He just ball faked him and started floating when another guy came in. And now he's on the other side of the basket. And a third player was after him, and he was still in the air. And he floated past that third player and just put it up a no-look reverse layup off the glass in the left side of the basket with his right hand."
Is that an ABA game?
Yeah.
Is that the very famous clip of him going?
No, that's in the
NBA. That's when he's on the 76ers.
The championship against the 76ers. Yeah. He was called he was like Thomas Edison. He did a new thing every night.
Oh my God.
Except he didn't steal from other people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In his first year, he averaged 32 points and 20 rebounds and 7 assists in the playoffs.
Fuck!
In his second season, he averaged 32 points and 12 rebounds. He was so important into the league that no one tried to fight him. No of the other players were like,
Which is saying something.
he is too. We can't let this guy.
Yeah.
Even your own teammate, you won't let him fight him because you're like, no, this guy is good for all of us.
Yeah. But that's what is so interesting about the ABA is like the thing of like the little engine that could. They all kind of know like,
Dude, that's Rudolph.
hey,
Yeah.
And he's the fucking red-nosed reindeer.
yeah.
And he's leading all of us.
But it doesn't mean we're gonna let him win.
no, but we're not.
But we're not gonna handicap him.
Right.
We're not gonna like make him be hurt because it makes all of us better.
Yeah.
Because we're trying to get this thing
Yeah.
to be at least an equal of the NBA.
Right.
And Julius was incredible guy. He had one night he had a teammate who was in a really bad rut, and so he would go up for a dunk, and he would pass to that guy, and that guy had like personal record most points because Julius took all of the opposing players with him. Had that guy was open.
It was 5-on-1.
Yeah, and so anytime he was always the nicest guy around, helping all of his teammates.
I met Julius Erving.
You did.
I met him. I was working on a commercial for 22 Jump Street.
No shit.
I was working on a commercial with 22 Jump Street, and it was like a cross promotion with the NBA and TNT or whatever it was. And on Channing Tatum, fucking what's the fat Jonah Hill was there. Ice Cube was there. None of these guys fucking like, and I was working intimately with all of them. Channing and Jonah were okay, but uninterested. I walked into fucking Dr. J's trailer, and he was like the first. He's like, "Hi, I'm nice to meet you. I'm Julius."
Yeah.
Yeah.
And fucking huge, gigantic Sasquatch hands.
Yeah.
He's eating a little tiny bag of Cheetos.
Yeah.
Like the little bag, it looked like a fucking dime bag in his hands, and he's like, picking Cheetos out of it. Pleasure. Good afternoon. My name is Julius. Shook my hand, squished it into smithereens. Looked me in the eye. Was just like a fucking humble gentleman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wasn't like skirting his like. It was just. He is who you think he is.
Yeah.
He's the
Right.
doctor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's who you're saying he is.
Yeah.
And he's 50 fucking years older than these fucking twinks, you know? Never mind Ice Cube. Ice Cube, who wouldn't even eat the craft services, had his fucking assistant who looked like Seth Rogen go get him El Pollo Loco. You son of a bitch. Dr. J's eating Cheetos out of a fucking the fun size.
Yeah. He's having fun.
He's having a good time, man.
Yeah.
Dude, it was awesome meeting Dr. J.
Yeah, that sounds
It
pretty
was
good.
like
That's a trip, man. I didn't know you did that.
I didn't think I was gonna meet Dr. J that day.
No.
And when I did, I told my dad, and he was like, "What?"
That's rad,
Dude,
man.
it was awesome. And it was like the fact that he was the doctor,
Yeah.
had the bedside manner. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Dude, it was so cool.
But that's also
He was just a dude. And he was on his birthday, every year up until like, I don't know, he's probably 78 or 80 now.
Yeah.
And I think up until he was like 70, he was like, every year on my birthday, I dunk a basketball.
wow.
See if I can still do it.
Also, like that is that thing too of it is a thing of famous black entertainers
And of a certain generation.
of a certain generation where they go like,
Because Ice Cube didn't look me in the eye.
Yeah.
He didn't look his own assistant in the eye.
you know what I'm saying? But it is the thing where they go like, I should acknowledge everybody in the room and very much be present.
Be a decent guy.
That kind of thing. And there's also like fear behind that, which makes
Sure, there's a generational, the soil in which he grew out of.
But it is also a thing that is like gratitude for where you got and where you've been, and
where you come from,
very much acknowledging
The littlest guy in the room,
Yes.
which was me
the smallest
in that
detail.
trailer.
Yes.
I was the tiniest dick in the room. And I still am.
Now, the ABA also made bad youth signings. The Memphis Pros signed Johnny Neumann to a NCAA. Johnny Neumann led the NCAA with an average of 40 points a game. He left he left college as a sophomore to sign with the Memphis Pros in 71. 5-year, $2 million contract. Once playing an away game in Indianapolis, he bought a Corvette. He had to hire someone to drive it back to Memphis. He said that the biggest thing ever to come out of Memphis was him, except for Elvis. His wife's nickname was Slick, which I think is cool.
Slick pants, you got to wear them slick shorts, man.
He had 2 good seasons. Then his coach hated him so much he put him on waivers. No team claimed him. In his second season, he owned 7 cars and was so out of money he tried to sell his cars to his teammates.
Oof.
One of his memorable stories was that he was called into a game and tore off his warm-up pants but forgot to put his shorts on and was only wearing his jockstrap.
Oh, God. Became a gay porn star.
Wasn't long before he was out of the league. The Memphis Pros in 72 were bought by Oakland Athletics owner Charlie Finley. He changed all their colors to match the Oakland A's.
Yellow and green.
He hired famous Kentucky college coach Adolph Rupp as a spokesperson. Rupp
Adolph.
He was one of the people that didn't want to play black teams.
And Adolph.
And he said
God.
John.
once when asked,
Don't say my
Speak
name.
up for this guy.
I'm not going to speak up for Adolph Rupp.
Why?
well, especially because Adolph Rupp said he said the problem with the ABA is that there's too many black guys in it.
That's the problem?
Yeah.
And was the NBA that different?
Yeah, there was way more white guys. There's mostly white guys.
It's not the NBA you know today, John.
Yeah.
Damn.
Charlie Finley.
Adolph, huh?
Finley ran into money problems because he also bought the Oakland Seals in the National Hockey League. He couldn't afford their salaries. At the end of his first season as owner, they were 24-60. His players were whistling taps in the shower. By the end of the second season, he stopped paying the team's bills. Commissioner of the ABA took a plane to Memphis, declared himself the owner, and that was that. They almost got Isaac Hayes to become owner, but Stack Records had a financial free fall, and he couldn't do it.
Chef from South Park couldn't buy the team?
Yeah. At the end of year 6, the Indiana Pacers beat the Kentucky Colonels for the title, their 3rd title in 4 years. Pittsburgh Condors, Miami Floridians both folded without finding a buyer. San Diego added an expansion team called the Conquistadors.
Ooh,
They signed Wilt Chamberlain to be a player or coach.
nice.
NBA wouldn't let him play, and Wilt didn't really care about coaching. He signed a contract, though, that got him paid for the rest of his life by the owner. The owner would later say, yeah, I have a personal contract with Wilt. I don't want to talk about it.
Yeah, I let him fuck my wife 4,100 times a day.
Wilt just stopped showing up eventually. He wasn't really interested in coaching.
Dude,
It is.
we need to do a profile on Wilt Chamberlain.
It's
just show note.
It is interesting though that there is Kentucky, Indiana, stuff like that.
Yeah.
That basketball was so deep there,
Yeah.
There's not a lot else.
and still is.
Yeah.
It's very very interesting.
Kentucky, Indiana, Kansas.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Those are the big ones. West Virginia is a big one too.
You would consider them to be more prone to
You
be
think football?
or baseball, I would say.
Yeah, it rains a lot in those states too. So it's a big indoor thing.
Yeah.
Baseball is really Florida, Texas, and California. Same thing with football. Big populations, a lot of dry days, or if you're not raining, you've got it indoor.
Mm.
Basketball is you can play it year round.
Yeah.
And yeah, in Indiana,
It's
Kentucky.
It's interesting.
It's a weird thing, but 9 times out of 10 the best high school football players and baseball players come out of Texas, California, and Florida
right
because of weather and population.
Yeah.
Matt, back me up on that.
Yeah, no, that's true.
Thank you. I needed that.
In year 7, Dallas moved to San Antonio, became the San Antonio Spurs.
Hey.
They made a bunch of trades to whiten up the team and then made some public statements saying they would help fan appeal. The team's black players refused to play unless a retraction was posted, and it was. The Spurs.
So the team's PR team said, "Hey, we got all these white guys. It's mainly so we can get more white fans."
Yeah.
And the black players are like, "What the fuck is this?"
Yeah.
And they're like, "Just kidding."
But they then signed 19-year-old George Gervin, who'd become
The Iceman.
known as the Iceman because he was such a smooth player. He never got rattled. He'd become one of basketball's greatest players. In the Year 7 finals, Wendell Ladner, now playing for the New York Nets, he dove for a loose ball, crashed into a glass water cooler, smashed it to the ground. He had to get 100 stitches.
Jesus
He tried to get
Christ.
back in the game, but he was bleeding so much that they wouldn't let him.
Oh my God!
If it wasn't for all that ice, he would have needed 200 stitches.
But he did play the next day. And the
What?
Yeah. The Nets, now with Julius Erving, beat the Utah Stars for the championship. The Spurs, though, they were a big hit with their fans. They had a local cheering section called the Baseline Bums. It was a bunch of Mexican guys, and they would get loaded on Lone Star. And they would dance and were incredibly fun and rowdy. At one point, Larry Brown said, the coach Larry Brown said, San Antonio doesn't have anything going for it other than guacamole salad.
What the fuck is guacamole salad?
It's just guacamole.
Guacamole.
Oh, yeah. Guacamole with iceberg lettuce.
They call it salad because there's no fucking like
they don't-
tri-tip in there.
Yeah.
Because, there's no animal flesh. Therefore, salad.
Therefore, salad. They're like, where's the brisket?
Fucking homos.
So the next time he showed up, the Baseline Bums presented him with some guacamole, and then when the game
They
ended,
tossed his salad.
when the game ended, they poured it on him as he went past him.
Oh, like
Yeah,
Gatorade.
hell yeah.
The Baseline Bums, which consisted of Mexican guys drunk on Lone Star. Nice, Matt. Really nice.
It's true. Just
I guess. I'm
It
taking
was.
Matt's word for it. Whether it's true or not, I
That's what
like
the
it.
book says.
I like it whether it's true or not, man. It's not a judgment on you,
Do
buddy.
you think he just added that?
Yeah.
No, I like the delivery. I like the way you delivered the facts, all right? Some people like Peter Jennings, some people like Walker Cronkite. I like Matt Brousseau.
Thank you. Thank you, Aaron. In the Season 8 All-Star Game, the Spurs, it was hosted by the San Antonio Spurs. They got Willie Nelson to sing the national anthem.
Hey, check it out.
They gave the MVP of the game a quarter horse.
What the fuck's that?
It's just a small horse.
Oh.
Freddie Lewis, the MVP, he didn't know what to do with the horse, so they auctioned it off. It died 2 weeks later of malnutrition.
One of the Baseline Bums blew him in a donkey show in
Jesus.
Tijuana.
Okay. It's the delivery.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In the 8th season, a 22-year-old broadcaster named Bob Costas started his professional career for the St. Louis Spirits.
No way.
Yeah.
He's 100 years old, John.
26.
He was 22 then.
22.
He was in college, and he sent them some tapes, and he had a friend who put the tape on the desk because there was a ton of tapes, and so you have to get it.
You just needed to hire a guy.
Yeah.
Remember when he did the Olympics with Pink Eye?
Yeah.
His eye was all swollen up like the Emperor in the first Empire Strikes Back, not director's cut. His eye was all like this. And remember that?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's fucked up.
The St. Louis Spirits they had great talent and were terrible. They were a freewheeling team. One of their first star players was Fly Williams. He was famous for playing for the Austin P University.
Where you study P?
The crowd would chant. When he was playing, the crowd would chant, "The fly is open, let's go pee." When he went to go to the school, he flew to Austin, Texas, got off the plane and said, "Where the hell's the pee?"
Hey, what the fuck's?
And then they said, "No, we're actually in a different state," and so he flew home.
I would too.
He was famous for being completely uncoachable. Sometimes he would just dribble the ball off the court so he could go get a drink of water.
Damn.
One time he thought he was fouled, so he just laid on the ground until the play stopped.
Good guy.
In his first game, he had a breakaway for a wide open layup. He decided to do a 360. He ended up getting confused in midair and throwing the ball into the stands.
Throwing it? I'm confused. Ah! He didn't miss the layup, Matt. He got confused and threw the ball.
Yeah. Well, it's got to go somewhere.
That happens when I get confused too. I get angry.
Yeah.
Ah!
What kind of flag do you throw on that? Player confused.
Plaid.
Yeah. One time the team was down by 25 points, and the coach had a huddle, and he said, "You guys need to start passing the ball. You need to start playing like a team." And he said, "Does anyone have any questions?" And there's a long silence, and then the flea said, "Man, just give me the damn rock, and I'll take care of it." And that was the end of team play.
Yeah. Sounds like something Kobe would say though.
He once got in a fight with a teammate during pregame warm-ups. He was released not long after. They also had this guy named Marvin Barnes. I feel like I'll save Marvin for a Patreon. He's just a fun guy,
Good guy.
and so I'll save Marvin for a Patreon.
Okay.
In the 8th season playoffs, Wendell Ladner threw his shoe to stop an opposing player. Is
Well, honestly.
first and only times anybody had ever done that.
Random Task did it.
Yes.
One of those Austin Powers movies.
Do you remember how Indiana had that guy that would try to hex the team?
Yeah, Doctor Strange.
Well, I think it was Denver. They countered one day. In the playoffs one year. They countered with their own.
They hired a
Hex.
fucking witch. Are you kidding me?
Oh, this is good.
They hired.
She's hot too.
They hired a witch to hex the other team, the Pacers. It didn't work.
Yeah, they all
Denver lost.
gangbanged her in the locker room after
Jeez.
that. Look at her.
Jesus Christ, what the fuck?
You
are
know you've seen pornos like that.
I don't know what
I-
you.
I
I
don't-
know, John. I know you've
I haven't seen
pornos
basketball
like that.
like
not
that.
try to make.
Debbie does the Dallas Raiders or whatever. You know you've seen that. Look at her. Look at her.
She's
Look at
just
the team.
She's just doing the.
She might as well be Piper Perry on a couch with the whole fucking rest of the whole starting
she's
five
only
behind her.
doing the live long and prosper thing.
Oh, you think she's a fucking Vulcan?
yes.
You think she's Dr. Spock over there? She's Dr. Cock.
You're a sicko.
Yeah,
You're depraved.
I know.
In the 8th season,
But
the
look at her.
Kentucky Colonels beat the Indiana Pacers for the title.
But look at her.
I know. You're right.
She took the whole, the hex that she fucking cast
You
on that
just have
team.
to agree with it.
Yeah.
You just what
Yeah,
you're saying
you just
is
have
true.
to just let it go.
But she is bold. I
Mhm.
I
And
like her
daring.
style.
Now, during all of these last few seasons, the ABA was playing the NBA in exhibition games. Before the 9th and final ABA season, the ABA went 31-17 against the NBA.
No fucking way.
Yeah, and they won the overall series 79-76.
Hey. Let's thank Dr. J.
Do you know
George
anything
Gervin.
about that? Like, do you know anything about like what the promotion was there? Like,
Well,
the NBA has to admit that they're being challenged.
well, they wouldn't openly admit it. Tommy Heinsohn on the Celtics, he would say, "Well, we weren't playing to win. It was just a preseason game." But then you look up the stats and you see he played his starters over half the game. They were trying to win.
Did they play with a 3-point line?
So they would play half the game with the ABA rules, half the game with the
No
NBA
shit.
rules.
Oh wow!
I bet you first half versus second half matters.
I mean, sure, but the NBA,
But either way.
NBA guys could shoot that range.
Yeah.
They just didn't.
But that also is. Don't get me wrong. Like I'm saying, like, kudos to both of them.
yeah.
Yeah, that's the
Absolutely
right way to do it.
Willing to do it.
But
It's
even,
very cool.
even Red Auerbach in this documentary in the 90s, he was going, "Nah, the ABA, they were no good. They only had Julius. If it wasn't for Julius, they wouldn't have. They were nothing."
No.
Red Auerbach is a miserable bastard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great coach.
yeah.
Miserable son of a bitch.
Yeah.
And he lucked out by having fucking Bill Russell for half a fucking century.
Yeah.
Well, no, I mean, to his credit, he would.
He was a very good coach.
No, but to his credit, he wanted Bill Russell, and he wanted black players. Most other NBA teams
there were
weren't
a
signing
lot of black players on that side. And also, Bill Russell for 20 years.
Yeah, as a
Bill
player,
Russell getting 30 and 20 for a decade.
as a player and a coach.
Yeah.
Who
only recently died.
So also before the 9th and final ABA season, the Denver Nuggets and the New York Nets petitioned to join the NBA, but they were not allowed. Then the ABA season ended early when 3 teams dropped out, 16 games into the season, and the ABA said, "Let's just go right to the playoffs." New York Nets beat the Denver Nuggets in the final
you know why they
championship.
dropped out?
just out of money.
Fuck.
But
Yeah.
more importantly, in that last ABA season, at the All-Star game, they held the first ever dunk contest. And they had seen these players dunking all the time, and they said, hey, why not? And this was the first ever dunk contest, and Julius Erving dunked jumping from the foul line.
Mm-hmm.
And no one had ever seen that. They'd seen stuff like that in practice, but they'd never seen it done in such an open arena.
Mm-hmm. Fuck.
And the dunk contest has been part of the game ever since. But that was
its ups and downs.
yes, but that blew everybody's mind to see that.
Yeah. And then in '84, when Jordan did it, he didn't really do it like Dr. J did.
Well, even Dr. J his foot was over
His
the
foot
line.
was over it, and the very famous the Jordan Dr. J did it 8 years before,
yeah. So about yeah.
and it was just listen. I'm not taking anything away from Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan's the best,
Right.
undoubtedly. But it was like he did it first and better. It's not Dr. Jordan. Everybody now says is Kobe going to be the next Jordan? Is LeBron going to be the next Jordan? When Michael came out, they were comparing him to Dr. J.
Yeah.
And when Magic came out, they were comparing him to Oscar Robertson.
Yeah, I mean,
And the time you're doing it in too
Makes a huge difference.
which is like
Yeah.
it is earth shattering.
yes,
it's
it was
to change the paradigm. Like, listen, there's high school kids now that are doing two-handed dunks from behind the fucking free throw line. Times change, abilities change, etc. But you gotta give it up to the Dr. J's and the Oscar Robertsons.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. The Nets beat the Denver Nuggets for the championship that year, and then after that, the league succeeded in forcing a merger. The NBA wouldn't call it a merger, and they combined.
They would call it an acquisition.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is the settlement of the merger. 4 ABA teams would be admitted to the NBA: Denver, San Antonio, Indiana, and New York. That gave the NBA 22 teams at that point. Each ABA team would pay the NBA $3.2 million. The ABA teams would receive no money from television contracts for the first 3 seasons.
Fuck that.
ABA teams would take no part in the college draft that year. ABA teams were referred to as expansion teams. The ABA teams would have no rights pertaining to the distribution of gate receipts or alignment of divisions for 2 years.
They're playing a long game.
New York Nets had to pay the New York Knicks $4.8 million for indemnification for playing in the Knicks' territory.
Oh, what the gang?
And they had to sell. The Knicks didn't want Julius Erving, so they had to sell him to Philadelphia because they couldn't afford to hold on to him.
Yeah.
The 4 ABA teams got to keep their players. The remaining ABA players would be distributed among the NBA teams in a draft. The ABA did get to take part in that draft, and Chicago was given the first pick so they could take Artis Gilmore. And then the stats of that first year that they played together. Of the league's top 10 scorers, 4 were ABA players. An ABA player led the league in steals and assists. ABA player was 3rd in rebounding. 1 was 4th. And 2 were top 5 in block shots. 5 of the 10 starters in the NBA Finals were former ABA players.
Oh, shit.
Denver, ABA team, won their division. San Antonio, I believe, won theirs the next year. Houston was of the 24 All-Stars, 10 of them were ABA players.
Fuck.
And of these players, only Rick Barry didn't begin his career in the ABA. And this is Bob Costas has this to say. He says, the ABA had a strange split personality. On the one hand, the ABA people knew what a great thing they had, how talented their players were, and how entertaining. It was almost like we didn't want to share our little secret with the world. Yet there was such pride in a league that had to endure so much simply to survive, and we wanted the world to know how great our players were. It was an obvious contradiction, but both feelings were understandable. I'll tell you this. We saw so many of our players do well after the merger. It was an incredible feeling for those of us who had been in the ABA. We could say to the world, see, we told you so.
It's a great way to put it.
It is, and it's also a thing too where players could justify getting more money, also referees, etc. But this thing of, we can be just really great without you, and we don't need to.
You don't have a monopoly on great players.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it is.
You have a monopoly on attendance and in distribution, but great players emerge.
Well, also, it's that thing, of you say you're the thing in basketball, and we're saying, no, you're not.
Right.
But then also you have that, loose rattiness of the administration of it, but also, maybe a bunch of people get an opportunity they never would have.
A bit of a My Fair Lady.
Right. Is that
Sure.
that thing of, you're not going to be the one to dress up in a suit and tie, but you also can fucking dunk a ball, so that's all that fucking matters,
Yeah.
I
love that.
I do love that saga a lot. And it is also a lot of, chutzpah, in a very, also, because I'm still in that mindset, a very Barnum way. I think of you go okay, well, we're going to do this. We're just going to play good basketball. We're going to be outside of the societal norms.
Hey, some of us are crazy.
Ingenuity.
Yeah.
For me, in this profile, Aaron, I don't know if you agree, but I would say that the most intriguing things is wooing the refs.
Yeah.
From the NBA.
I had no idea about that.
Yeah. And
that's very, very interesting.
And find the least appreciated cog in that machine.
And what makes you legitimate when you have those guys come over.
Right.
Yeah, they're the fucking rulemaker. They're the guy.
Also, another thing the ABA did is that press people always had access.
Right.
They paid for their flights.
Right.
They made sure that those guys.
Why hire a PA team?
Yeah.
Or a PR team?
Yeah.
Excuse me.
Woody Page was a Sports Illustrated writer, and he said that he wrote a glowing portrait of one of the ABA players, and the next day the guy sent a prostitute to his room.
Female, male, trans.
He didn't say. But
doesn't matter.
But
No.
the ABA did everything they could to make sure they got press.
Yeah. That's your PR budget.
Yeah.
Is the press guys who want to write a good story anyways.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also, there is a thing to be said there, right, for the dysfunction of the league, right?
That itself is a story.
That itself is a story, but it also shows that, if it can be that out front, then also this is a league that doesn't have, any kind of pretense. Right? Yeah. Whereas the NBA can be we're the established league owners. We pay our players much less than this upstart thing, but we are demanding respect just because we are the NBA.
Exactly.
Which can be a losing endeavor anyways, because you saw what happened in the 2000s when they lost control of all their players and they had to button down. All right, you got to wear suits to the games. But also, you can't fucking be fighting people in the
But
same,
also the inherent fallacy of at the end of the day, just because you're beyond the wall of respectability by being the NBA doesn't mean you're not just a bunch of shitty rich.
We saw what happened.
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't mean you're not a bunch of shitty fucking
people like any other industry.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, the game is about the players, and if you're not treating the players well, they will find some other place that will, if they can.
Yeah.
And once you give them the freedom to be themselves, they're going to play the game in a way that is themselves.
Yeah.
And so you get all these guys that the NBA would say they're not, NBA quality. What does that mean? right?
Right.
That means the NBA has a strict rule about what that means.
Right.
And the ABA said, you guys go out there and you be you.
Yeah. But a couple of things we talked about in this profile, and it was wonderful, Matt.
No, thank you
I
so
loved
much.
it very much.
Thank you.
But I'm going to say, especially in response to like the stuff about race and inclusion in sports and how I think it is a thing that really unites people and makes them get over racism
Mm-hmm.
is sport.
Yep.
Because people are, when it comes to sport,
Or entertainment.
they're just like fairness,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Yeah.
They're like, whatever is the best deal, let's get it going. Let's have the best matchups happening. Let's unite the titles of the fucking dumb leagues that you made so that your prize fighters don't have to fight somebody that's going to knock them out and they'll lose their title that you have money invested in. All of that bullshit. It's like there is something to sport being a unifying thing
Mm-hmm.
where people can all see publicized things and how people perform in sport,
Yeah.
and they can just be like, okay, well, what would happen if so and so went up against so and
Right,
so?
We're all a bit. We all like, you know, no matter what country you're from or what political ideology you subscribe to, we all have to obey the laws of physics. Okay.
Right.
And so, Jesse Owens versus your fucking super Aryan runners. Well, guess what? Who won? Jesse
Right.
Owens. But there is something to say for the buildup. The buildup of that does make the crossover hit that much harder.
Very much.
Mhm.
Yes.
When you have segregation in baseball, and which they did, they very much selected Jackie Robinson for a reason.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
Matt, you said he wasn't necessarily the best black player out there.
But he was the one that could handle it.
He was the one that he was an exceptional athlete
Mm-hmm.
of, I think, a four fucking letterman player
Mm-hmm.
across four. He was he lettered in 4 sports in college. He was an elite level athlete, but he was also the guy for the job.
Yeah.
And when you have like the narrative behind it and like the tension behind it, it makes
Yes.
it that much more. Dude, the Olympics being the what is the 38 Olympics, or maybe the one where Jesse Owens fucking
Yeah.
beat the shit out of fucking Hitler's guy. Like,
Yeah.
that emotional weight behind it makes the message that much stronger. So there is almost like maybe we do play this dance a little bit of.
Yeah. No, I mean,
Let's keep them separate just long enough.
But there's the thing. So, like, to me, this is how I feel about the ABA, and part of it is colored by
well, let's not use that word. Come on, John, please.
part of it is tainted by
Hated. Jesus. Inform.
I will continue talking. I got the mythology from Semi-Pro.
yeah.
And it's very interesting because it is upstart against a established thing, the NBA. But it also makes you realize the same way, like we were saying, like Barnum versus Old Wealth. It's like, this is just the new thing that is more liberal and excitable than the old staunch ways of doing business that are probably more problematic and mean towards working people that are actually making them all the money.
Yeah.
Like, I do love a Island of Misfit Toys kind of scenario, and I think this is very much that.
Yeah.
And I do find myself wanting them to win.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Especially because it is that thing of like American, like, we found a fucking pocket that people like basketball and they don't necessarily need to have it be in this hallowed halls of people that take themselves too seriously.
Yes, exactly.
And we are doing it, and like I said, like in theaters of America that I wouldn't assume would be huge on basketball, but it works and it's good, and it's also like the beginning of like new media and television media and stuff, and they really have a thing where they're like, we could be something.
Yeah.
But eventually they just took how many ABA teams?
4.
4.
Yeah.
Right. And it was the top 4.
Pretty much. Yeah.
And it was Pacers?
Yeah.
Denver, Indiana.
Pacers probably top, right?
Yeah,
because they didn't even change their name or their location.
The Pacers are easily the most successful team. Pacers, the New Jersey Nets, the San Antonio Spurs, and the Denver Nuggets.
God. But they also...
Some of your preeminent teams.
They also...
Still.
Yeah.
But they also must have felt such a sense of betrayal. Of like...
Who? Who's they?
The succeeding ABA.
Well, no. So Julius Erving, when the New Jersey Nets and the Denver Nuggets tried to merge before the last season started, Julius himself said it felt like a betrayal to all of the players in the league.
Oh, interesting.
Because here all of these guys were working their ass off, and only these 2 teams are leaving. What about the rest of the guys?
And how they conspired before to not fight him because they knew he was their star. So there was a whole thing of like, you're leaving
the place that made you.
You're leaving the crew behind.
But also not all of them.
He was aware of that.
He was, and that I really value because that is like, don't forget where we came from. Don't forget that like everybody. This was a big shot, and it was a big gamble.
Yeah.
And for most of these guys, even the ones that would, especially the ones that would go play for NBA teams, their favorite years were still the ABA.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't it be?
It's so exciting.
Yeah.
It's so exciting.
You're not
to think
burdened by what has been.
To think that you can come up against them and be like, maybe the whole fucking, thing comes together and stuff like that. And like, again, unfortunately, most of my knowledge of this thing comes from semi-pro.
The documentary, yeah.
But that's the thing is like they know that they're only going to get 4 teams in.
Yeah.
So they're doing the playoffs in the movie
to get in.
To try to get in. But they also know that they're a shit show.
Yeah, well, when Andre 3000 and Woody Harrelson are your fucking point guards, I don't know how far you're going to make it.
But it's like, you do have to think about that. The people that were like also rans, could have beens, and stuff like that. Yeah. And that they did something so outside the system. And I mean, do you know how much television was showing their stuff, or was that
not enough? Their second commissioner was a guy who used to work for CBS, and they hired him as commissioner because he promised he could get them a TV deal, and he never did. Yeah. But some of the games were shown, especially in the bigger markets. Indiana probably.
And anything with Dr. J.
Yeah, New Jersey definitely. But when you try to find highlights, it's very hard to find highlights.
Yes.
It's hard to find highlights from the NBA.
Yeah, which is
at that time.
Yeah, which should be a complete embarrassment to them. But a lot of those games were taped over.
Exactly. That's my point. Yeah, that was my point. It's like, never mind the bad quality. Shit getting taped over the cavet.
No, the first Carson's first run as host was all destroyed because they wanted to save money on tape.
He couldn't dunk.
No, he could not.
As far as I know.
But yeah.
Well, Matt, tell me what did you think about this?
Oh, I mean, it's one of my favorite stories of really just the camaraderie of these guys, especially the guys who were given a second chance, who weren't allowed to play in the NBA. And then the moment they show up and they're really good, the NBA is like, oh, actually, well, I guess we could let them in. Yeah. But just bucking the establishment and also making it entertaining in a way. The NBA would complain like, oh, they have a 3-point line. It's too wide open. But it's like, well, yeah, because that's how you're removing everybody from the middle of the
You're
floor.
taking off 75% of the court.
Yeah.
And so the game is more
legacy
exciting.
does go for the ABA with that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And definitely with the stat keeping. I
Yeah.
mean, that's
Yeah.
huge.
Yeah.
Like
There is
it's
something to be said.
obvious, and, like you're like, how the fuck are you not keeping the
But
stats?
but there's something to be said about new blood with different ideas going like, hey, I love this sport, but you guys aren't doing the things that I think you should be doing.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
Takes an outsider.
yeah, and it's a shame that the ABA was so poorly run, but at the very least, it was great that so many of these guys finally got an opportunity to play professional basketball that they would never have got.
And they changed the game.
Do you ever think about the idea if you're playing a sport, and both of you guys are more sporty guys than me? If you're playing a sport and suddenly during halftime the coach comes in and is playing the sport, wouldn't you be like, God damn
If
it?
he came in and he was playing?
Yeah.
Like player coach?
Yeah, player coach. Wouldn't you be like, oh, fuck, now I'm playing with coach. He's gonna be
Well,
so-
no, because a lot of these player coaches were as good.
And
As a
and not
player.
that far removed.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Like Kobe was a player coach. LeBron is basically a player.
yeah. LeBron's been.
Jordan was a player coach.
Mm.
Tim Duncan was a player coach. There are it's just they were more player than coach.
There's just too much, especially in the modern game. There's too much for the coach to do.
Yeah.
The player needs to focus on playing.
It's so
But-
Tom Brady, player coach.
Yeah.
What's the fucking weird guy? Peyton Manning, player coach.
Yeah.
Maybe the most player coach.
yeah,
Of all of
yeah,
the NFL.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those guys.
All right, gentlemen. Matt, I absolutely love that.
Thank you. I did too.
It was rich
It was really
with
great.
really fascinating ideas.
Yeah.
I mean, it really makes you be like, what could have been?
Yeah.
You know? But also, it serves some territories well and others not so much.
Yeah.
Other people were trying to have like lion tamers.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Matt. Bon viaggi.
Oh, thank you. Thank
Yeah,
you.
yeah.
Grazie.
Yes. Have a great time in Italy. Everybody say I love you to Matt. I'm going to say good night. I love you. My name is John Fahey.
I'm Aaron Pita.
Matt Purcell.
Good night, everybody. We love you. Good night.